like I haven't seen you in a minute. Where you been? Busy? Gone? Hiding? Drunk? No. Same. Sometimes. Not all the time, though. Hi. Put my fingers in my teeth. Try them.
Stupid sexy Flanders!
Not to call you a liar, but you're full of shit. You know you have to be on the I'm gaming screen for those to work, right? That's where that browser source is. Yeah, you fucking loser. Get it together. We're gonna watch Bailey. Murder, mystery, and makeup. Because murder. Now, let me get the, let me get the ticky talk going. Hi. What is in my cup is frickin' water. We have a bunch of murder mystery makeups to watch. Fields of Mystery. And do drugs. Yay! Welcome. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing this evening. Is it playing Fields of Mystery and doing drugs? Me too. Hey, what are you? You know what? I don't even care. Get in my mouth. Well, that's all that. Yay! Let's see. Boop-de-doop boop. Okay, so tiki-talkies. Hi, children. Welcome in. I had to start Field of Mysteria all over again. It's not pepper spray. It was drug spray. Narcotic. Hi, madabala. Alright. Go live. Oops. Probably should turn this other light on, huh? Boop. There you go. Fields of Mysteria. There it is. Not for babies. Good night, Barsa Barf. Nom nom. Nom 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 nom. Okay. We're watching Bailey Sarian.
Hi, friends. How are you today? My name is Bailey Sarian, and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. If you're new here, hi. My name is Bailey Sarian, and on Mondays, I like to sit down and talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin. And I do my makeup at the same time. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, I would say subscribe because I'm here for you on Mondays. Before we jump into today's story, I have a word from our sponsor. I want to talk about something a little different, but honestly, it's just as scary and real. There's a predator hunting you, silent.
His name's Elspeth!
It doesn't need a knife or a getaway car. It uses interest rates, late fees, and those achy collection calls that pop up when you think you're finally like, you got away. But then it tightens its grip. Your paycheck just barely.
Shut the fuck up.
A big thank you to PDS Debt for partnering with me on today's episode.
Oh, I need
and
the
to viewers
watering
like
can.
you, of course. Now let's get into today's episode because it's another one that has kept me up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Here I go. On August 20th, 1989, two brothers from Beverly Hills went to
Beverly Hills!
They bought tickets to see Batman. Then they went home to find that their parents had been brutally murdered.
Was it me?
Or at least that's what they told everyone.
Batman.
But what really happened behind like those mansion walls, it really shattered the image of like this perfect American family. And sparked what many say is like one of the most controversial trials in true crime history.
Oh wait, I gotta go make another
Eric
net.
and Lyle Menendez cold-blooded killers, or
Yeah, I gotta go make
two
another
broken
net.
sons pushed to the brink. Well, today we are going to be talking about the lies, the abuse, and the
Mech, you're right. All right, y'all. We didn't do our intro song. I'm a bad person. Here we go.
We're gonna have some fun tonight, 'cause you can't touch my boobies. Don't be shy, yeah, it's alright, 'cause you can't touch my boobies.
Sure can. Whoop, whoop. All right. Are we good now? We're good now.
brutal truth
Whoop, whoop.
behind the Menendez brothers. Oh, you've been
What the hell do you
asking
mean
for
there
it
is? It was
forever.
so.
And I don't know why it took me so... Well, I know why it took me so long to
Alert.
do the story. Listen, disclaimer. Before we get into it, please be advised. Our episode today will get into graphic details
All right,
of
try again.
murder, sexual and physical abuse, and it can be a little graphic. So, viewer discretion is advised. Okay, look. I don't know why I struggled so hard with like putting this story together, this case together. I think because I was like so freaking involved in it.
Works now.
This one was just so hard for me for some reason. Anyways, what I'm saying is, I'm
There we
gonna
go,
give
I
you,
fixed
like,
it.
The rundown at first.
It was
and
under
then
too
we're
many
gonna get into,
layers.
like the truth that many didn't know about, or many had forgotten. Okay. So
Yeah,
if you're like, why didn't
so-
you mention this or that?
It's
Shut
not
up.
news.
Okay, listen.
What? Did you not pay
Great.
attention to what happened with the
Got all my
Menendezes?
notes here just in case.
Oh, that's
It was
right. Y'all are
almost midnight
babies and
on
you don't
August
know.
20th,
Sorry.
1989, in the all
Sorry,
city
babies.
of Beverly Hills, when a 911 call came into the Beverly Hills Police Department. On the other end was the trembling voice of 21-year-old Lyle Menendez. Now, usually 911 dispatchers in this area, they get calls about like
Good
fender benders
night.
or burglar alarms going off. So the dispatchers, they were a little caught off guard when they heard Lyle on the other end saying, "Someone murdered my parents."
Someone killed my parents. Pardon me? Someone killed my parents. What? Who? Are they still there? Yes. The people... No. Were they shot? Yes, Matthew. Were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes.
So within minutes, okay, the home, 722 North Elm Drive in Beverly Hills, it was filled with police officers, investigators, sirens. It was chaos. This home, it wasn't just a house, it was a freaking mansion. A sign of wealth. It's a big, beautiful, like 7-bedroom, 9,000 square foot Spanish style estate, sitting on a beautifully manicured
Trout?
lawn,
I don't even have a
surrounded
fishing
by
pole.
palm trees.
Alright.
It had like a red tiled roof, white stucco. It gave like old Hollywood glamour, an obvious sign of like money. You know what I'm saying? Now, to the outside world, when you're looking at a home like that, you're like, that's the American dream. But to the Menendez family, it was home. Inside the home, the sheer scale of horror
Horse!
shocked like even veteran officers.
The sheer
The
volume
scene
of
was
whores.
Very disturbing.
Was
okay?
disturbing.
One of the investigators said, quote, "I've seen a lot of homicides, but nothing quite as brutal.
sheer
Blood,
volume of
flesh,
horrors.
skulls. It would be hard to describe,
Horrors.
especially Jose, as resembling a human that you would recognize.
Horror.
That's how bad it was. Jose Menendez, a powerful
I need a bigger
entertainment
sack.
executive, the
How do I
patriarch
make my...
of this,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
there it is.
seemingly
Sack.
perfect family, was found in the living room, shotgun blast to
Much
the face. okay?
sacker sack.
His wife, Kitty Menendez, she was once a beauty queen and was a homemaker.
I wanna...
She was laying on the sofa,
I should
fatally
get a lemon
shot.
tree and
When
a cherry
investigators
tree.
looked further, they saw that she had like multiple wounds after she had been already killed. And this was like the case for Jose as well. And it seemed like, you know, it could have been to make it appear like a mob hit, or maybe there were actually more than one person involved in the shooting. But there were multiple wounds, and it was very intense. Like I said, the scene, it was chaotic. Officers, forensic teams, detectives were all coming inside, filling the
Much
home.
sack or large?
And the question on everyone's mind was,
Oh, yeah,
like,
my sack has
who
so
would do
much
this?
sack now.
Why? Was it a robbery?
All right, let's
Was
drop
it a
off these trees and go
professional hit?
mining.
Why in this like fancy
we need food.
schmancy
Oh, fuck.
area would something like this
Can't
happen?
even make food yet
You
'cause
know,
we
to
were
investigators, the Menendez family,
Collect all these berries.
at least on the
All this
surface,
free shit.
they appeared untouchable, living a life of pristine.
I gotta go mining because I need to
And this
make a
sort of
new
violence
net.
Just like did
'Cause
not
I don't know
happen to
where I
people
put
like
mine.
them, or so they thought. But you know, as the night wore on, as the days wore on, investigators looked closer, and the focus of their suspicions would shift away from like an act of random violence, a mob hit, like the Sons had suggested, and they started to question whether it was done by the people closest to them.
There we go.
So
That's
the
what I
murders
needed
were
to do.
all over the media, and like the following hours and days after the murder had happened,
This is where the
all
orchard
eyes
will be.
were on Lyle and Eric Menendez. You know, they were just two young men. They were only 18 and 21, and now suddenly orphaned in like the most brutal way imaginable. And their demeanor,
There we go.
seemed to fit
Orchard.
the description of grieving sons. The frantic 911 call,
All right, that doesn't
the
work.
tearful interviews with friends,
Off we go
family,
to
and
dig
police.
holes.
They
La
would
la
speak
la
publicly to the
la.
media,
Digging,
just,
digging, fairy
sharing
princess.
how sad,
We gotta get
upset,
these
the
berries,
shock,
'cause obviously we don't
sadness,
have any extra
everything, you know?
food.
And everyone who was watching the news or in the Beverly Hills area was just coming in, showing their love and support for the boys who had lost their family, their parents. One of the parents' memorial
goat.
services was held in Los Angeles. It was for friends and family in the industry. The family, they would hold another memorial service in Princeton, also for family. But the one in Los Angeles, it was very lavish. Eric and Lyle, they came dressed in their finest suits and appeared like completely heartbroken. I mean, it did raise a brow or two when they arrived, like over an hour late, but they were grieving, so it was understandable. At the service, Lyle got up and he spoke, kind words about his parents. I guess his voice was cracking, like barely making it through. It was said that Eric was too upset to speak in front of everyone at the service. But either way, like everyone there embraced them and just felt awful for what had happened. I mean, it was also tragic. But then, something started to feel off.
Ooh.
Some would say a lot of the times when people are grieving, they can become quiet, start to withdraw. But for Lyle and Eric, their grief seemed different. You know what I'm saying?
Hose.
After the murders, the brothers seemed to
I like to dig hose with my knuckles.
celebrate, you could say, by going on a shopping spree. And it wasn't just like small purchases made. I mean, it was a big spending spree that seemed to raise some red flags. A few days after the murder and over like the following months, the brothers spent money. They spent money. Lyle, he had purchased a
Damn it, why didn't the potato get
$64,000
donated?
Porsche. Do you say Porsche or Porsche? Let me know. But he got a new car, a nice one. And Eric got a new Jeep
Depends
Wrangler.
on where you're from.
They went
Potato,
out, they bought
potato.
Rolex watches, designer clothes, expensive jewelry. They flew first class, going on some luxurious
Hose.
trips. They went to Vegas. They did some high-stake gambling. There was a very famous moment where the brothers got courtside seats at a basketball game between the New York Knicks and the Chicago Bulls. Basketball. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But this game would be forever remembered in a trading card from 1990 featuring one of the Knicks players. In the trading card, you can actually see the Menendez brothers sitting courtside. Yeah, and you're like, oh shit, that's them. They were there. There was also another card that from the same game that surfaced. Either way, it was like their parents had died. They were sitting courtside. It was just like, okay, that's fine. But it didn't stop there. The brothers, they invested in different business opportunities. For example, Lyle, He spent $550,000 buying a restaurant in Princeton, which he named Mr. Buffalo. And for Eric, he attempted to invest $40,000 in a concert promotion company,
Damn it.
which ended up being a con. But it didn't matter because
I'm
like, they were
not.
finally doing the things that
I
they
needed
was
to catch
wanting
these
do
assholes.
without anyone stopping them. So obviously the detectives are paying attention, and this behavior seemed deeply, suspicious. Why would two grief-stricken young men just go all out like this? Meanwhile, investigators found some inconsistencies back at the crime scene. Now, the Menendez mansion was heavily secure at the time. Like, the family had one of the best alarm systems on the market at the time of the murders. And the alarm systems were disarmed. And there was like no sign of forced entry into the home. Even though the place inside the home and it looked ransacked, there was like very few valuables that were actually missing. I mean, inside there was a ton of expensive stuff, but it was odd that really nothing was taken. So investigators were starting to think like the house was staged to make it look like it was a home invasion. So investigators, they're going around and questioning people, people who knew the family. And they found that Jose, he did have a lot of enemies. Like, people really did not like this guy. At his place of work, he was said to be very cruel. He would berate people. He was just an asshole. And people told the truth. But there was this one guy that was like Jose and Kitty's friends. And this guy randomly tells police, he's like, I kind of have a feeling like the sons were involved. He had no proof or anything, just a feeling. He said that something always seemed off between the boys and their parents. And that's all he could say. But that was interesting,
Oh.
So the police then discovered something. Apparently, the brothers had called in a computer expert on August 31st, which was like 11 days after the murder, to come in and erase files that were in Kitty's computer. Lyle had hired a computer expert to come over and erase the computer files that had the new family will on it, which was believed to have left the brothers out. Now, Lyle, did not want those files to be found or retrieved. So this guy comes over and he's like, okay, I'll do it, whatever. This guy ends up going to the police and tells them,
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver.
Fuck you,
about
Ranger.
the
You don't even
situation.
know me.
So
How
investigators
dare.
are investigating. Then, October 31st, Eric. He seems to be really struggling. He was struggling with anxiety and stress after the death of his parents. So he went to go see a Los Angeles psychiatrist named Dr. Oziel. Now, Eric had seen Dr. Oziel before, so he was like a familiar face in, you could say, this time of need. So Eric and Dr. Oziel, they met that afternoon and decided, first they met at the office, and then they decided to go on a walk around the
A
Beverly Hills
romance
area.
walk.
So Eric was talking with Dr. Oziel about his depression and that he wanted to end his life, just stuff like that. He was really struggling. So the two of them, they're walking back to Dr. Oziel's office, but before they return, I guess Eric just stops. It was said, he leaned against a parking meter and just straight up said, we did it. We killed our parents. I was like, okay. So Dr. Oziel's like, okay, let's go back to my office. So they go back to Dr. Oziel's office, and that's where he's asking more questions. Like, why? Well, tell me more. And Eric started to share some of the darker secrets going on in the home. But first, Eric went on to explain a little bit more about what led to the murders, vaguely. So Eric was telling Dr. Oziel that he had watched this miniseries on TV, and it was about the Billionaire Boys Club. Now, the Billionaire Boys Club was a real-life crime story and a TV miniseries that aired in 1987, and it was about wealthy young men in Los Angeles, and they committed murder for financial gain. And Eric expressed that he kind of felt inspired in a way. So after watching this little mini series, he then went to his brother and like shared his belief that their parents were going to like take them out of their will and they would no longer be receiving an inheritance. So this got to the both of them, both brothers, talking about like how terrible their father was, how he dominated their lives, and that they should get rid of him, kill him. It sounds so simple, but I guess that's it.
Man, where's the
Because
diggy hole?
They said that the brothers, they thought they should kill Kitty, their mom, because like they couldn't kill their father without killing her too. And like it was like, oh, okay. But this is like allegedly what Eric told Dr. Oziel. So the brothers like talked about it. They decided, okay, we're gonna kill our parents. So Eric is talking to Dr. Oziel and he's like trying to explain. They had tried to like purchase guns at different locations, but they weren't having much luck. So
Alright, you know
Eric
what? I
and
gotta have
Lyle,
to
they ended up at a
I
Big
think the
Five
sweet-
sporting goods store in San Diego, where they used a stolen ID to purchase 2 Mossberg 12-gauge shotguns. The brothers then set up their alibis to make it seem like they had been at the movies and this place, the Taste of LA. It's like a restaurant type thing in LA. I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
Fuck!
Is it a restaurant? It's like a restaurant type thing. You go there and
was
eat
too
food
slow.
or something. Anyways, that was going to be their alibi. So after shooting their parents, they gathered up the shotgun casings. Then they drove up Mulholland Drive, where they threw the shotguns down into a nearby canyon. And then after, they took their bloody clothes and shoes and they tossed them in a dumpster at a gas station, along with like the shell casings. Eric explained to Dr. Oziel that they didn't worry about like cleaning up their fingerprints or shoe prints because it was their home. So it was kind of like already expected that their prints would be everywhere, you know? So Eric was telling Dr. Oziel this whole little breakdown. So Dr. Oziel was like, Eric, you know, we should call Lyle right now and have him come over and talk about this. So they call up Lyle. And Lyle comes like racing over, and when he showed up, he was pissed. He was pissed that Eric had told Dr. Oziel anything and allegedly had threatened to kill him, the doctor guy, if he mentioned anything about it. Dr. Oziel invited them back to his office to keep talking, and, you know, they would share more and more dark details, really giving reason as to, like, the why of it all. And at this point, Dr. Oziel started taking more in-depth notes and also tape recording the sessions. So investigators, they were kind of struggling to get some kind of hard evidence on the brothers because they're really thinking it was the brothers. But on March 5th, 1990, they received a very big break from Miss Judalon Rose Smith. Now, Judalon Smith told police about the audio tapes from Dr. Oziel's sessions with the Menendez brothers, where they had allegedly confessed to the murders of their parents. I know, who's this Judalon lady? Well, look, we can have a whole conversation about Judalon and Dr. Oziel's relationship in itself, because it's a whole shit show. But essentially, Judalon, she was originally seeing Dr. Oziel for therapy, and she was receiving like hypnosis sessions from him. But then it evolved into a love affair. Now, he was married at the time, had a family, everything. And as these shitheads do, he's telling Judalon like all the things she wants to hear. Like, I'm gonna leave my wife for you. You're the love of my life. You know, just dragging her along. But essentially, he was fully taking advantage of her. So as time went on, and things were getting messy between her and Dr. Oziel, she really realized what the fuck was going on. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to police. So she went to police. And she told them that Dr. Oziel like had become obsessed with the brothers, recording everything that they were talking about. And he was constantly trying to insert himself into their lives, and then was like telling Judalon everything about it. So like bringing her into it. There was this one session where Dr. Oziel had asked Judalon to like come to his office while the brothers were there having a session, and pretend that she was a patient waiting, just like sitting, waiting in the room. And that way, if like anything went wrong with the brothers, because they were threatening to like kill him and stuff, she would be a witness and could call police. So she's like, I don't want to be involved in this, but like he's making me be involved in this. And she finally got out of that cycle. You know, she was sick of his shit, and she went to police and she told them everything she knew. And this is exactly what the investigators needed and what they wanted. On March 8th, 1990, the lead detective on the case, his name was Les Zoller, he got a search warrant for Dr. Oziel's tape recordings
who wanted
based on Judalon's tip. Judalon? Which, fun little fact / crossover, this lead detective, Les Zoller, he was also the lead
Meet her at
detective for the
Dragon Inn.
Billionaire
That's not
Boys
it.
Club case.
Wild
It was a
leaf,
real thing.
caterpillar,
I wonder
mushroom.
what
Oh,
else with that. Anyhow,
him.
so they go and they get
I had a bit of
the
leak.
audio tapes from Dr. Oziel. They got 17 audio tapes and 7 pages of notes. And detectives, of course, they listened to the tapes and they heard all the confessions straight from the Menendez brothers' mouths. There's no denying to them that like they were involved. They did it. So the same day that investigators got the tapes at 1 p.m., Lyle was flagged down by the Beverly Hills police while he was driving his new little Jeep to the Cheesecake Factory. Not the Cheesecake Factory. Listen, he was pulled over. It was a big old scene. Arrested. It was all over the media. And he was taken into custody on suspicion of murdering his parents. Well, again, like, his arrest made news everywhere. Like, it was all over the place. And his brother Eric, he was at Israel at the time for like a tennis tournament. So he heard about his brother's arrest. And he ended up flying back home because he didn't want to be arrested in a different country. And he ended up turning himself in on March 11th. So why'd they do it? Was it just for money? Was it greed? I couldn't think of a better transition here. So let's go back, because this is where the real story comes to light. That was just like the surface story. To understand what really the fuck was going on, you gotta go back. Let's go back. Back to the beginning. It's a good song though. Good for her. So at the center of this American dream family was Jose Menendez. Now, he was born in Havana, Cuba in 1944, and he arrived in the United States as a teenager in 1960 when he was fleeing the upheaval of the Cuban Revolution. Now, when he came with little, but he was determined to make something of himself, okay? I will give him that. He was very determined. Now, this background, it gave Jose almost like a superhuman drive. Like, you know, he was a self-made man who clawed his way to the top. Jose, he worked hard, and he ended up earning a swimming scholarship to Southern Illinois University. I know it's kind of random, but his mom was like a great swimmer, and she ended up in the Hall of Fame back in Cuba. He did that. Then he pursued an accounting degree from Queens College.
All right, now who was it?
And people, in the beginning, they seemed to really love Jose. Like, his drive, determination,
Strawberry.
it made him stand out
Okay,
and
leek and
move up
strawberry.
the corporate ladder very quick. From working as an accountant to a corporate executive, I mean, he was driven. Then in 1971, he started working for Hertz as an executive
No.
in the car leasing division. And within
It's
2
her.
years, Jose was promoted
Yup.
to CFO at the company. And I was like, God damn. He was young too. Then in 1979, Jose, who's then 35, he became Hertz worldwide general manager. Now, the next year, Jose was reassigned to one of Hertz's parent companies, which was RCA Records. I know that part I was thrown off. I was like, when does that? I thought they just did car leasing or whatever, but one of their parent companies is RCA Records. It just felt so random, but it doesn't matter. He was reassigned to go work for RCA Records, and then from there, again, he
Okay, I gotta
became their
smelt.
chief operating
Oh, wrong way.
officer. He was just able to move quick. Jose's job at RCA Records was to sign major artists like Duran Duran, the Eurythmics, and even the boy band Menudo. Now, Jose was known for his aggressive, firm business style, saying that he always thought it was far better to be feared than loved. So Jose, he got things done like no matter what the cost, and he made a fortune by doing it. By 1986, his success had moved the family from New Jersey to the Los Angeles area. First, it was Calabasas, and then in 1988, that's when they moved to the Grand Mansion in Beverly Hills. Now, Miss Kitty, meow, she was, right beside Jose, mainly like in his shadow. And that was Miss Kitty Menendez. Her real name was Mary Louise Anderson. Now, when she was younger, she had won Miss Oak Lawn Beauty pageant, and she also attended Southern Illinois University, and that's where she met Jose. Now, she was described as glamorous, but also a bit of a quiet rebel. I was like, what does that mean? I don't know, but that's what they said. Now, to Jose, Kitty had represented the American dream that he wanted. Like, she's an all-American, beautiful, blonde-haired girl who was educated, a beauty queen, Oh. And to Kitty, Jose was this hardworking man who was willing to overcome anything in order to achieve his dreams. And they loved that about each other. So when they met, like, they were inseparable. Now, at the time,
There we go.
When they got together, their relationship was considered very controversial because they were mixed race and they lived in a very conservative town. Now, Kitty's family, they did not like Jose because he was Cuban. And Jose's family did not like Kitty because her parents were divorced. And again, old school conservative mentality. Divorced? No, heavily frowned upon. But, they didn't care. Whatever. And in 1963, they eloped and they moved to New York City. So when they moved, Kitty found work as a teacher. But, after the birth of Lyle in 1968 and Eric in 1970, she put her own dreams aside to become like a full-time housewife, dedicating her time to raising their sons. And I'm going like this. I'm going, because, like, really she didn't want to, but, like, Jose really wanted her to be the stay-at-home mom and, like, do that whole traditional thing. Kitty had dreams to be going to, like, broadcasting and work in New York and broadcasting and stuff like that, but she gave all that up. It was said that Kitty's childhood was...
All right, Gabby from Vegas, let's go ahead and pack your concentrate orders. So
No!
your went back in stock today, so you went ahead.
Eat shit,
Not
Gabby,
great.
from wherever.
Her father was like super abusive towards her mother and the kids, and I guess she carried that trauma with her, struggling with depression and resentment all throughout her life. And as Jose's career took off, you know what they do. Well, maybe you don't, but as his career took off, he picked up some mistresses along the way. It was said he had multiple affairs, which Kitty would find out about, and it was just devastating for her. Her former psychologist would later testify that she became dependent on drugs and alcohol. She had mentioned that she wanted to end her life a couple of times, especially after she had found out about an 8-year affair Jose allegedly had with a woman in New York. So publicly, Kitty, supported Jose's ambition, but privately, she was unwell. Friends actually described Kitty as Jose with a wig. Like, she was just completely consumed by his vision and his goals, but she was also completely isolated and fully dependent on him.
What the
So for
donk is
Lyle
that,
and Eric
then?
growing up with these parents, it was said to be very intense. Jose's drive didn't just stop with him. He also put the pressure onto his sons. Like, they were not just expected to succeed, they were demanded to excel. In Jose's eyes, they were to continue the family legacy. For Lyle and Eric, their lives revolved around competitive tennis. From a young age, both boys were drilled relentlessly. Jose managed their schedules, their coaches, their diets. He micromanaged everything and was pushing them to national rankings. To the family, or to Jose, tennis wasn't just a sport. It was a non-negotiable path to a scholarship. And honestly, I think, it was a way for Jose to prove to everyone, I make winners. My sons are the best. It was for everyone else. Lyle once told the Los Angeles Times, quote, My father suffered from being a perfectionist. It carried over into his home life, and it was sometimes difficult for Eric and me. It wore on him mentally, and it wore on us. End quote. But, the pressure from Jose went way beyond the tennis court. It wasn't just about tennis. He controlled every aspect of their lives. He dictated what classes they took in school, what books they read, their social lives, who they dated, monitored their phone calls, and had almost an obsessive need to know their every move. It was said that disappointment or anything less than perfection was met with Jose's explosive rages. I guess he had a terrifying temper and just the constant threat of his disapproval. He made it clear to the boys that their worth was tied directly to their achievements. Not to the outside, both Eric and Lyle, they appeared like confident athletes, but internally, they were struggling. Lyle, the older brother, I guess as a child, he developed a stutter, a speech impediment that would become worse under stress. It was said that his stutter was a result of his anxiety. He was often seen as the more dominant brother. He was outspoken, he was bold. He was more willing to challenge authority, his teachers, whoever, but especially their father. According to psychologists who evaluated him later on, they said that, his confidence really masked a deep insecurity. Eric, the younger brother, was considered the sensitive, anxious, and soft-spoken one. It was said he also actually developed a stutter as a kid, and it was more severe than Lyle's. Eric was said to be shy, withdrawn, especially when his dad was around. But he really looked up to his older brother and just kind of leaned on him for any type of protection. He rarely stood up for himself. And many saw him as the more vulnerable of the two. When they went to school, I guess the school had called up Jose and Kitty and told them that their sons were not doing well in their classes. They were having trouble focusing and retaining information. Lyle's teacher said that he was a rule breaker. He was defiant and just moody. With Eric, he seemed to just struggle more in school than Lyle, and it just seemed to make him a target for Jose's criticism and his anger. When the school had informed Jose, about their concerns with the kids, he would refuse to accept any type of negative feedback. Instead, Jose, he would drive down to the school and he would yell at the teachers or go to whoever was in charge, blaming them for the boys' poor performance. That was them as kids, right? So again, after the murders, the public saw the two grieving sons. Then they saw the extravagant spenders. And then it was ew, these are just two greedy, selfish young men. But what they didn't see was what the hell was really going on behind those mansion walls for years. And finally, this all came out from Eric Menendez himself, and the trial too. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but again, after the murders, Eric wasn't doing well, right? So he goes and he talks to Dr. Oziel. So in the beginning, Eric was talking about the murders, how it took place, what I mentioned earlier, that. But afterwards, he would continue seeing Dr. Oziel, where he shared more and more, giving an answer the motive behind it all. During Eric's sessions, he shared more about the upbringing under Jose and Kitty, and it was horrifying. It was horrifying. Deeply disturbing. Kind of what I just mentioned, yes, Kitty and Jose were strict parents, but they were also just sick and abusive people, which according to Eric was escalating over the years. The physical abuse was described as a constant threat. Again, Jose's temper was insane, and his discipline often turned violent. The brothers, they would later testify that Jose would hit him with their hand or with objects, and usually it was out of nowhere. Jose was described as having a reign of terror over the household, where his physical intimidation was a tool to enforce his absolute will.
Thanks to Purdue Global, I got my literal dream job.
Getting a degree backed by the power of Purdue?
Hey, Mom.
But going to class from wherever.
Whenever.
Both brothers described instances where Jose would physically force them to participate in tennis, even if they were badly injured, or he would punish them pretty brutally if they messed up in school or again sports in any way. Now Kitty, she too was accused of physical abuse. It was said she wasn't as bad as Jose, but she would often slap or even just straight up punch the boys if they pissed her off. Again, Jose just needed all control. He controlled every aspect of their lives, their friends, their clothes, their thoughts, their identities, just everything. And if they did not meet Jose's impossibly high standards, they would receive criticism, belittling, humiliation. He would pit the brothers against each other. It just seemed awful. Now Kitty, she's just she was just there. She's, I guess, just overwhelmed with her own struggles. She just kind of stood back and let Jose dominate the house. It was said that she, again, would participate in the physical abuse. Sometimes she would participate in the emotional abuse as well. Or she would just be absent emotionally. She was there, but she wasn't. She was checked out. But I think the most devastating and most controversial confession, the very core of the brothers'
Horns
was the allegations of sexual abuse that the brothers received from their dad, Jose Menendez. Now, I wish we could have an honest discussion about it and go in depth or whatever, but this is YouTube and they censor freaking everything. So, this is already gonna get dinged, whatever. But it was awful. Both Lyle and Eric testified under oath that their father had sexually abused them for years, beginning when Eric was around 7 years old and continuing right up until the time of the murders. They described a pattern of molestation, rape, forced incest, psychological manipulation that left them deeply traumatized. Now, in court, Lyle had testified that Jose had performed sexual acts on him and forced him to participate in acts of incest with his brother, Eric. Yes. Now, Eric's testimony was really hard to hear. Just goes into great detail about the repeated sexual assaults by his father. And this was the dark secret they claimed that had driven them to their breaking point. Now, this wasn't just their word against, their fathers. During the trial, others had come forward to share what they knew over the years. So during the trial, the boy's cousin, her name was Diane, she testified that when they were around 8 years old, her and Lyle, they had a conversation where Lyle had mentioned to her that his dad had been touching, or they had been touching each other down there. So Diane, she testified that she went and told Kitty what, Lyle had said, and Kitty just kind of brushed it off, told her that I don't need to listen to that. She didn't believe her. During the trial, another one of the boys' cousin, his name's Alan, he testified saying that Jose Menendez would take showers with the boys and that Kitty would never intervene at all. She wouldn't let him, Alan, near the room during those times. And then another cousin, sorry, lots of cousins, but they were all close. Another cousin, Andy, testified saying that when Eric was 13, he told him that his father was massaging his lower area, but to never tell anyone about it. So they all came to court to mention these things to kind of back up their claims. One of the most significant pieces of evidence was a letter that Eric wrote to his cousin Andy in 1988. Now, this letter was written before the murders, okay? In the letter, it said, quote, "I've been trying to avoid Dad. It's still happening, Andy, but it's worse for me now. I can't explain it. He's so overweight that I can't stand to see him. I never know when it's going to happen and it's driving me crazy. Every night I stay up thinking he might come in. I need to put it out of my mind. I know what you said before, but I'm afraid. You just don't know Dad like I do. He's crazy. He warned me 100 times about telling anyone, especially Lyle. He goes on to say, am I a serious wimpus? I don't know if I'll make it through this. I can handle it, Andy. I need to stop thinking about it. End. Now today, this letter is considered incredibly significant because it gave, again, some evidence that the brothers weren't making up the abuse, which was what the prosecution believed. But unfortunately, the letter was not included in the original trials, but in recent years has become like a central argument for the brothers' legal teams who are seeking a new trial. It wasn't included in the original trials because they didn't know about the letter. Andy, the cousin, had passed away, and I believe it was his mom, when she was like going through his stuff, she found the letter and she turned it over. So further proof, decades later, new allegations came out made by Roy Rosseo, a former member of the popular 1980s boy band Menudo. Now, Roy was around 13 or 14 when he met Jose. This is when Jose was like working as an RCA executive, and at this time he was helping manage Menudo's tours. So Roy had come forward in 2023 and had testified that he too had been sexually abused by Jose when he was a teenager on numerous occasions. Roy gave a detailed account saying that his manager at the time had come to him and mentioned like he would be having dinner with Jose. So the manager told Roy that he would be doing something great for Menudo and also for him. So he said that like a limo picked him up and his manager, and they went to Jose's house in New Jersey. So when he got to Jose's house, Roy said he remembered seeing two young boys. It's just assumed to be like it was Eric and Lyle, but that they had said nothing when he walked in. Also, Kitty was there along with Jose and Roy's manager. So then Jose offered Roy wine and told him, like in a joking way, like, it's very expensive wine, so you better drink it all up, you know. Roy said that he remembered he was drinking the wine, and then he just remembered like feeling really sick, and then things went blurry and like he couldn't move. Then he remembers like he had these brief moments where he remembered Jose taking him to a room where then he was raped. So Roy remembered waking up, he was like back at his hotel, and he was in a lot of pain and he was bleeding, and his manager said that like this was normal, not to mention it to anybody, and like it wasn't a big deal. Now this was just one incident. There were others after that. Roy's allegations, they came long after the trial, but it provided like a third-party account of Jose's predatory behavior, and it really just added weight and credibility to the brothers' claims. So where was Kitty in all this, you know? Well, the brothers' testimony didn't just like implicate Jose. They also kind of showed a disturbing side of Kitty as well. They said that not only was Kitty aware of Jose's abuse, but that she would either participate in it, or at the very least, she failed to protect him. Lyle had testified that Kitty was present during some of the sexual abuse, at times even joining. Eric said if she wasn't participating, she would be in the next room while like he was being abused, making sure like no one would enter the room. Both of them also said that Kitty was involved in covering up the abuse, threatening the boys to like never speak about it. To her, it was all about maintaining the family's public image over everything. And again, like this just added another layer of trauma for Lyle and Eric, who said they felt betrayed, obviously, by both parents, which made them feel trapped, desperate, and unable to escape. So Eric and Lyle said that the winter before the murders, they had confronted their parents about the abuse. They're grown now, and they were ready to confront them. So they go and they ask their mom, like, why are you allowing it to happen in the first place? And then they tell their parents, like, we're gonna tell everyone the truth and what's really going on. According to Lyle, Jose told him that whatever he did with his son was like none of his business and to just stay out of it. In the heat of the moment or whatever, Jose then would like, I guess he threatened to kill them or just get rid of them if they spoke out or mentioned anything about it. And I guess, according to them, all Kitty said was that Eric was lying, that they were just lying. It was said at this moment the boys believed that their lives were in danger. Now, when all of this came out in court, the perception of the Menendez family, it just really turned upside down, right? Again, from the outside in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, they're the victims of this horrible crime. But when Lyle and Eric's testimony came out in court, people were now seeing them as victims of decades of horrendous abuse, which is what led them to make the decision to kill them. And it was not because of greed, it was from fear. This was the abuse defense, and it would be a very big deal. It would send shockwaves through the legal system and even the public. So with the allegations of abuse now out there, the defense team, the people who represented Eric and Lyle, their attorneys, Leslie Abramson and Jill Lansing, they faced the task of trying to convince the jury that these two young men, who, yes, brutally killed their parents, were not just killers looking for a payout, but instead were terrified victims pushed to their limit. And the defense team leaned heavily on a pretty groundbreaking legal concept at the time: battered child syndrome. So battered child syndrome is a psychological and medical term used to describe the physical and emotional symptoms that are experienced by children who have suffered prolonged abuse, often, at the hands of like their parents or guardians. Now it's said like children who are subjected to this physical, emotional, sexual abuse for long periods of time, they can develop a profound sense of helplessness, fear, and a distorted perception of reality. Like they're living in a constant state of terror and believing that escape is impossible. And the child on the receiving end, it can lead to extreme actions. So in the 1960s, battered child syndrome was formally recognized mainly in like pediatric medicine, and then later evolved into a legal defense in criminal cases. So Eric and Lyle's team argued that the brothers suffered from this and genuinely believed that their lives were in danger from Jose. They had claimed that Jose had threatened to kill them multiple times, and that the sexual abuse was just getting worse and worse, and it was becoming unbearable. And this led to the legal argument of imperfect self-defense. I know, it's a lot of terms, but listen. Imperfect self-defense is different from traditional self-defense because it comes into play when like the defendant genuinely believes, but unreasonably believes, that they are in imminent danger and will act to protect themselves. I'm getting tongue-tied over here. The key word though here is unreasonably. Even if Jose wasn't actively attacking them at the moment of the murders, the defense argued that years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse had created a reasonable fear of death or severe bodily harm. Complicated a little. Not really, but kind of, these legal jargon. Again, according to Lyle and Eric, every day was a threat. Every moment in Jose's presence felt like it was just a ticking time bomb. The defense claimed that they had no other way out. It was not about getting their parents' money, but rather it was just an act of survival. Jose was well connected, he was very powerful, and the brothers were terrified of what would happen if they did try to seek help. Now, the prosecution's claims were very simple. The brothers planned to kill their parents and inherit their wealth. They killed because of greed. Point blank, period. So by the time Lyle and Eric Menendez were arrested, it was again in March of 1990, it was about 7 months after the murders. The story, it was all over the media. People were invested. But it was during their trials, mainly the first one, that the Menendez case turned into a media circus. it was a perfect storm in a way. Court TV had launched in 1991, and it gave, for like the first time, live coverage of high profile cases and like showed courtroom footage live on television. This was all brand new. So for the first time, people could actually watch criminal proceedings on TV, and the Menendez trial became one of their biggest attractions. In the beginning, I think people were interested in it because it was like, oh, like two spoiled rich kids who murdered their parents for their money, you know? And that's what a lot of people really believed. I mean, at first. I mean, the spending spree, the fancy cars, the Rolex watches, designer clothes, gambling trips, it didn't help. It was easy for like everyone to think that these brothers were just entitled and would do anything to feed their greed. And the media was running headlines like about the billionaire boys and killer sons, just all with that same narrative. But then when the first trial started and the defense like unleashed their allegations of decades of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, you know, from Jose and Kitty, the story shifted from greed to, oh my God.
If you don't know where to start in Top Heroes World, the Springland is a great place to start. There are low-level enemies and villages with free healing wells.
Shut up! What? The first trial was an emotional roller coaster. I mean, largely thanks to Lyle and Eric's defense strategy. Now, during the trial, they really put the Menendez family, like itself, on trial, alleging a history of abuse, you know, so bad that it drove the brothers to murder. The defense team, most notably Leslie Abramson, she represented Eric. She presented the evidence of battered child syndrome. Now, this was like the first time a lot of people were even hearing this term. It was like, what? Again, key testimonies came from the brothers themselves, who they went into very awful details of Jose's physical and emotional torment and the long history of alleged sexual abuse. Psychologists and like experts on abuse, they had testified about the psychological impact of like the trauma that the boys allegedly, I have to say allegedly, received, just reinforcing the defense's claim of imperfect self-defense. Now, it's like one thing when you hear like me talking about it, like they mention sexual abuse and all this stuff, but when you watch the testimony and you watch both Eric and Lyle on the stand, you're like, oh, like there's no way they're making this up. There's no way they're making it up. That's what I'm gonna say about that.
Did you cry?
Yes.
Did you bleed?
Yes. I just told him. I don't. I just told him that I didn't want to do this. And that it hurt me.
What do you believe was the originating cause of you and your brother ultimately winding up shooting your parents?
Me telling.
You telling what?
Me telling Lyle that,
You telling Lyle what?
My dad. My dad had been molesting me.
But the prosecution, they fought back. So they dismissed the abuse claims. They're saying it was fake. They called it, quote unquote, abuse excuse. You know, a convenient lie invented after the fact to avoid responsibility. And like their argument was clear. The motive for the brothers was greed, pure and simple. And anyone who thought otherwise was dumb. Period. Okay? I mean, the prosecution, they really just highlighted and focused on the planning of the killings, the shotgun blasts at close range, the way that the brothers had initially tried to cover up the crime, and of course, that post-murder spending spree. So the prosecution, they had painted Jose as a driven but loving father, and Kitty as a caring, loving mother. arguing that the brothers, their claims were just outrageous lies designed to manipulate the jury. They focused really on like emphasizing the brutality of the killings. And their whole thing was like, there is no amount of past abuse that could justify such a cold-blooded act. But Eric Menendez, he gave a testimony. He was like up there kind of like sometimes sobbing. He's very tearful. And he talked about the abuse, and like that was very impactful. While on the stand, he cried while describing like in awful detail what his father did to him throughout the years. And a lot of people watching, listening, whatever, they really felt his pain. And the amount of detail he went into, it was really hard to believe that like this was all made up. When Lyle took the stand, he was received a little bit differently because he was like a little bit more calm. Some called him stoic. He seemed to be like more in control of his emotions. Some people interpreted this as like him being calculated because he wasn't as emotional and convincing like Eric was.
Okay, wait. Who wanted
But,
the
other people
the old
disagreed,
lady?
saying like it was a sign of deeper emotional suppression. Now, again, because all this was on live TV, it was like every sigh, every tear, every cough, every movement was scrutinized. And it was just a national obsession. After months of testimony and intense deliberation, it kind of honestly seemed like the jury
where the
was
old lady at?
leaning in the brothers' favor. But the outcome blew everyone away. The juries were deadlocked. Each brother was tried by a separate jury. So Lyle's jury was hung 8-4 in favor of a lesser charge of manslaughter. And Eric's jury was split 10-2.
Obviously, the last
also
room is this one.
favoring manslaughter over murder.
There
In
she
other
is.
words, they couldn't agree, and this meant a mistrial. Frustrating, but at the same time, it seemed like a pretty profound moment because it meant that, like, while the defense's abuse claims were considered controversial, it gave enough reasonable doubt to prevent a murder conviction. So it was seen as like a partial victory for the brothers, but the downside, it also meant that they would have to do this all over again in another trial. Now the second trial, because I do it all over again, was presided over by this judge named Stanley Weisberg. This trial would be dramatically different. Now I guess the judge had he watched the first trial and was not a fan. He made a critical ruling for this new trial, limiting the amount of abuse evidence that could be presented to the jury. And it's like, what? That was kind of like their whole thing. His reason, though? Well, the judge believed that the defense had gone too far and had turned the trial into a quote-unquote circus and focused too much on character assassination rather than giving direct evidence of self-defense when the murder happened. The judge said that the graphic and extensive details of past abuse were not directly relevant to the legal definition
He
of
didn't like my bug.
imperfect self-defense.
Rude.
So the judge's decision to not allow this information into the new trial heavily impacted Eric and Lyle's team, to fully present their case and really limited their ability to tell the jury the why of it all. So the second trial starts up, and the prosecution, they doubled down on the motive of greed. Instead, they focused on the planning the brothers did before the murders, the weapons, the spending spree, and the lack of immediate threat to the brothers at the time of the murders. They portrayed the brothers as calculating liars who were manipulative.
I'm gonna
and
give him a
invented story
diamond.
to
No.
escape justice.
Sapphire.
And
Ruby.
Eric and Lyle's team,
I bet he likes
they
that.
struggled. They really did.
Well, yes,
They
I
didn't
did
really have a
randomly
good
pick up an
defense,
accent. Thank you.
because their defense was not allowed in court. So after months of testimony and just 2 days of deliberation, on March 20th, 1996, the jury came back with a verdict. Lyle and Eric Menendez were both found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with conspiracy to commit murder. Without the emotional testimonies about the abuse, the prosecution's simple, direct case of Here's what the brothers did the day of the murders, period. It had won the jury over. On July 2nd, 1996, both brothers were given the maximum sentence, 2 consecutive life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. They would be spending the rest of their lives behind bars. Now the public's reaction, very mixed. Many saw it as a win because they fully believed in the greedy rich kid, narrative type of thing. But for many others who fully believed the abuse claims, it was really a heartbreaking moment. So 25-year-old Eric and 28-year-old Lyle would die behind bars. Lyle was sent to Mule Creek State Prison in Northern California, and Eric was sent to Pleasant Valley State Prison. It was 500 miles away. They were separated because the courts didn't want the brothers communicating with one another. Lyle called the separation, quote unquote, tremendously painful. And Eric, he went on a hunger strike in attempt to stay with his brother. For over 2 decades, they were kept apart, and the only contact that they had was through letters or indirect communication through their family. Now, while they've been incarcerated, they both embarked on paths of personal development and in some ways redemption. Both would end up getting married while incarcerated. Lyle's first marriage ended in divorce, but they got marriage, yay. Lyle got a bachelor's degree in sociology while in prison and is pursuing a master's degree. I know, I was I guess prison is the only place you can get free education and healthcare. LOL. Lyle served in the inmate government for 15 years. And I was what? Had to look this up. And it's a structured system within a prison that allows the inmates to participate in decision making related to their daily lives, the institutional operations, and peer representation. I was what? It's a student council, I guess, yes. And it was said that Lyle has worked on prison reform while incarcerated. For example, he has taken active roles in improving prison conditions, advocating for inmates' rights, helping implement programs that support rehabilitation, education, and community building behind bars. I was damn, good for him. I didn't even know they had all these things going on. Eric, while in prison, has become deeply involved in religious studies, I guess leading Bible study classes, and even becoming a minister. It's said that Eric worked with terminally ill inmates through a hospice program, which would provide comfort and end-of-life care for inmates. I know, I was learning all this, wow, I didn't actually know they did all this. In prison and whatnot. Eric also became an advocate for child abuse survivors. So he would mentor fellow inmates with similar trauma and contribute to awareness efforts behind bars. So both brothers have participated in support groups for other prisoners who have gone through sexual abuse, channeling their own experiences into helping others. They have often been described as model inmates. They've had good behavior and they've been just participating in rehabilitative programs. Throughout the years, both brothers have tried to appeal, but have been constantly denied. And for the most part, the world just really moved on, right? And it seemed like their fate was sealed. That was that. But, unless you've been living under a rock, in recent years, the Menendez case has had a dramatic resurgence in public interest. This attention has come from, the true crime community, people on social media having discussions about older cases with now grown, fresh eyes. Love it or hate it. I know a lot of people did not like it, but the Netflix drama series, it was called Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. It was a dramatization of the story.
Oh, TikTok got turned off.
And
Whoops.
A documentary from the brothers that followed. It really brought the case to a new generation of viewers, many of whom didn't know or even understand the full scope of the abuse allegations. And to many, hearing this for the first time was shocking. And it really got the conversation going. Just again, reigniting sympathy towards the brothers. And a lot of people were looking at the trials what the hell was that about? What? Yeah, it was just it's been in the conversation. All the public conversations and debate online has coincided with the new legal efforts by the brothers' defense teams. So the brothers have a new legal team, and they have filed a habeas corpus petition or petitions on the brothers' behalf. A habeas petition is essentially like a legal way for someone in prison to be like, hey, the court got it wrong. Here's new evidence or proof that my rights were violated and I deserve another look at my case. So their attorneys are arguing that their detention is unlawful due to the errors in their original trial and newly discovered evidence. The new evidence being what I mentioned earlier, Eric's 1988 letter to his cousin Andy.
My friend told me about this nail diagnostic. Gives you specific products based on your nail type. Your nails are unique.
That was written months before the murders, you know, and where he kind of like talked about the ongoing sexual abuse. On top of that, the allegations affidavit from the Menudo member, Roy, yeah, remember? He came forward sharing his sexual abuse by Jose Menendez in the 1980s. They did all the math, and based off of his allegations, like where Jose was at the time and where Menudo was at the time, like it correlates. It's credible, okay? Because people are trying to say like, why is he coming forward now? And I hate that shit. Anyways, but that's like new evidence. The defense argues that this evidence, if it were presented to a jury today, would most likely lead to a different outcome, potentially like a manslaughter conviction. In October 2024, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office started reviewing the case, acknowledging the, quote, complexities surrounding the sexual violence, end quote, and the brothers' continuous rehabilitative efforts. Rehabilitative. Why are words so hard for me? Anyways, but the former district attorney initially like showed a willingness to recommend a resentencing or even like a new trial. And it was like kind of looking like that was gonna happen. But then things changed. Los Angeles, they got a new district attorney. His name's Nathan Hochman. And he felt Nathan Hochman opposed a new trial, saying that the brothers have not shown full accountability for their lies and deceptions, and he was not for a second chance. But just recently, on May 13, 2025, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge, Michael Jessic, I think is his name, formally resentenced Lyle and Eric Menendez anyways. So their original sentencing was like life without parole. It was reduced to 50 years to life. So the judge had acknowledged like the horrific nature of the crime, but also highlighted the brothers' significant rehabilitative efforts during their 35 years in prison. And he stated that while he wasn't saying they should be released, instead he was saying like they had done enough to get that chance at a parole hearing. Also, because, okay, hold on, lip liner. Because both of them were under the age of 26 years old at the time of the crime, this new sentence makes them immediately eligible for parole under California's youthful offender laws. Listen, California's youthful offender law gives people who committed serious crimes before the age of 26 a chance at an earlier parole hearing. The idea is that young people's brains
scheduling a tattoo.
Fully developed, so they may be more capable of change, and that the system should take that into account. Now, this hearing is believed to take place in August of this year, 2025. So again, it might bring them one step closer to like potentially walking free. Well, this case, at the court lie like two conflicting narratives. On one side, the prosecution's portrayal of Lyle and Eric Menendez as just cold, calculating, greedy sons who gunned down their parents for a multi-million-dollar inheritance, and then staged like a lavish display of fake grief and spending, which led to their first-degree murder convictions. And then on the other side, the defense account of two deeply traumatized young men, victims of years of sexual or severe physical, emotional, and sexual abuse at the hands of not just like any person, but their own parents. You know, the very powerful Jose Menendez. And then there, in my opinion, kind of like, she seemed like a shit mom, Kitty Menendez. And this is what makes the Menendez case like so, I don't know if complex is the right word. Interesting. I don't feel like that's the right word either. But I don't know. But now with like this new evidence that came out, I mean Eric's letter and Roy's allegations, it definitely challenges the verdicts. I mean, after all these years, people still are talking and really asking the question, like, are Lyle and Eric Menendez guilty, like truly guilty of just first-degree murder, cold-blooded murder? Or were they victims of awful abuse?
I'm just going to keep that loaf of bread in case I need it for something.
And deserving of, like, a different outcome. Beyond the Menendez case, though, it's definitely led to, like, bigger conversations being had. And really, like, putting a spotlight on the, you know, often hidden reality of child abuse, even within wealthy, seemingly perfect families, and just really like taking down that myth that these things only happen in certain demographics.
Oh shit! I
forgot
about.
Got people
I forgot
about
that I can take the elevator now.
System's handling of abuse
Now it's too late to go
claims,
mining.
especially when the victims are male, who historically have faced greater skepticism and difficulty in coming forward and speaking out. Because a lot of people just don't take it seriously. I think as the years have gone on, you know, people, society, whatever, have come to like understand the long-term psychological effects of trauma, you know, and what it can do to a person.
Oh, for
and
ass.
how
She
it
ain't
just
even
can
at
destroy
fucking
them
home.
and even influence their actions years later. And that is the Menendez case, really. I left a lot out. Okay, yes, I know. But like for the most part, that's it. Now, I never wanted to do this story because I too was one of those people who didn't really know anything about this case at all. I only heard about it. I don't know. But I thought they were just spoiled rich kids who wanted their parents' inheritance. Like, that's it. And then I watched that Netflix dramatization one. Again, a lot of people didn't like it. And that's okay. You're allowed to not like it. But when I watched it, I was like, is this true? Is this really what happened? Like, even if a fraction of that was true, I was like, what the fuck? So then I went onto YouTube, and they have all of, like, you can watch the whole trial online. And I was like, oh my god, like, a lot of it is true. A lot of it is true. And when you watch the Menendez brothers like giving their testimony, it's hard to not believe what they're saying. I mean, I don't know why people would even think otherwise. It's just like, wow, they were fucked up by their parents. And that's the tricky part. Does that mean that you can get away with killing people? No, I think you still have to pay the price for murdering and blowing someone's head off. But, you know, that's where I think that's where everyone struggles. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Really, I feel bad for it. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways. Thoughts? I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I would love to hear what you guys think, you know? Monsters? I don't want to say monster.
Alright, what's the next one? The next one, okay. Menendez's. Next is True Crime Q&A. I don't want to fucking do True Crime Q&A. The clip? I don't want that. There we go. Robert Picton. Pig Farm. I remember this one.
Hi friends, how are you today? My name is Bailey Sarian, and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. Hi, if you're new here, that's my new theme song. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bailey Sarian, and on Mondays I sit down and I talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin, and I do my makeup at the same time. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, I would say subscribe because I'm here for you on Mondays. Hey, before we get into today's episode, we do have a sponsor. Hey, it's summer, and I know that because I've been putting my jeans in the freezer lately before leaving the house. It's a pro tip, okay? First of all, it gets rid of the stench, but also it's like air conditioning on the go. Cold pants? Come on, you're welcome. Anyway, summer means traveling, weddings, vacations, aka summer is expensive. All those little things, extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's good to know because today I'm driving on empty because I don't want to go to the gas station, but I'm going to use, can I use my code? I'm going to use my code, they don't know. Or scan the QR code here to claim this offer. A big thank you to Upside for sponsoring today's episode, but most of all, a big thank you to viewers like you, because without you, I wouldn't even be here. So now let's get into today's story. If you're ever curious to know what I'm using, I list it in the description box down below. But let's talk about today, okay? Listen, in the quiet outskirts of Vancouver, surrounded by mud, pigs, and the stench of something far worse, a man built himself a kingdom. A pig farmer who threw wild parties, rubbed elbows with the Hells Angels, and ran shady charities, all while hiding one of the most horrifying secrets Canada has ever seen. His name, maybe you know, was Robert Pickton, also known as
Willie
the
Pickton.
Pig Farmer Killer, or the Butcher. Oh, this man lured women to his farm and never let them leave. But here's the question. Was this really the work of one man?
Nope.
Or was something bigger, darker, and more organized going on?
Yup.
Yep. Disclaimer. Today's
I'm
episode
Canadian.
contains discussions of violence, murder, and sensitive
I grew up
topics
around
that
that.
may be disturbing to some viewers.
I grew up around the
Viewer
Angels.
discretion is
If you know,
advised.
you know.
So
If you
let's
don't,
get
that's
into
okay too.
Mr. Robert Pickton. So Robert Pickton was born on October 24th, 1949.
I like that rug.
So he's a Scorpio. But he grew up in a small town. Well, it was like a small growing industrial suburb called Port Coquitlam.
Coquitlam.
How'd I do? Coquitlam?
You
Well,
did.
it's
Good
just
job,
outside of
girly.
Vancouver in Canada.
Coquitlam.
Okay. Now at this time there were like a lot of farmers, railroad workers, and like manufacturing industries in this area. It was said that when Robert was born, his umbilical cord was like wrapped around his neck, which had cut off oxygen to his brain for a good amount of time. At least that's what like the family said. And like the family would point to this as to why Robert grew up as he was a little odd, you could say. The Pickton family bought and operated like a really big farm where they raised pigs and cattle and then, slaughtered them. And again, like this farm was pretty damn big. It was at least like 30 acres. Robert's father, he was around, but it was said that his mom was mainly the one who ran the business. Like she was very strict. She was a workaholic. I think she was just freaking maintaining this farm. It's huge. Okay. So she's really like running the show. Now, Robert also had two siblings, an older sister named Linda and a younger brother named Dave. Now, I guess when Linda was younger, the mom decided like to send her away to go live with family or something, because according to her, she's like, the farm is no place for a girl to be growing up. So Linda gets sent away. Honestly, if I were Linda, I'd be like, thank God. Farm life? Not for me, baby. So Linda, gone. Bye. Meanwhile, Robert and
Oh, I
Dave,
forgot to give
they
Marge
were
a
the
birthday
ones who were
present
working
yesterday.
alongside their mom, really maintaining the farm, and they would do so like before school and after school. It was their whole life and their livelihood, really. So I guess the kids, like their dad was around, but I don't know. He just didn't seem to really be as involved. I don't know. He was giving me kind of like the more passive one in the marriage. Like, there really wasn't much said about him. Well, Robert, growing up, he goes to school and whatnot, and he's really not doing very well. He was a little slower than, the others, and was placed in special education classes. And then on top of that, he really struggled to have friends. Also, it didn't help that he was known for not having the best hygiene. Yeah. While working out on the farm, he would get dirty and stuff, as you do, and he would have a certain smell.
Stanko.
I guess he didn't bathe often, and you know, he's weird. I don't want to say he's weird. He's weird. He's weird. He has a stench. So he was pretty antisocial. And honestly, I was reading all that, and it was like, it sounds like he was just straight up neglected. But okay, when Robert was 12, he got a pet calf at the farm. Okay. Now, he loved this calf. He would rush home every single day after school to go see him. I mean, this was like his best friend. Well, one day, Robert came home, you know, excited to see his calf, but he couldn't find him anywhere. So he's going around asking the family, like, where's my calf? So he was told to go check the barn. Now, this made Robert panic because he knew that the barn was the place where animals went to die. Robert told his calf to never go down to that barn. He looked that calf in the face and was like, don't ever go down to that barn. But sure enough, you know, as soon as he walked in, he saw his best friend hanging from the ceiling, gutted, butchered. Tragic. Robert later said, like, this was the moment where he really kind of understood death. And it was just also devastating. Well, you know, life goes on. And when Robert is 18 years old, whatever, so sheep goes down. Okay, so you know, he has a younger brother, Dave. So Dave finally gets his driver's license. So, you know, he's all excited. He's like, yay, got my driver's license. And one day he goes out for a drive. So Dave is out driving and he ends up like hitting a kid with his car. Now, instead of getting out of the car and being like, hey, you good? He instead flees the scene. He races back home, like in a panic. He goes straight to his mom. He tells his mom everything that happened. And he's asking her, like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe call the police and say you accidentally hit someone. Just a thought. I don't know. But what do I know? So their mom has Dave drive she and him back to the scene where they see the kid, like, lying on the road. The mom, Dave's in the car still. The mom gets out of the car and she ends up rolling the kid to the side of the road and into a water-filled ditch, which I guess was like hard to see from the main road. Then she kind of like dusts her hands off and she's like, okay, yeah. She gets back into the car. She tells Dave to just drive them back home. Yeah, she literally just rolled this poor boy into a ditch and then headed home like nothing. Now, see, I guess Robert, technically, like, he didn't witness this firsthand, but he heard about it when the family was talking about it that day. Well, you know, the poor kid, his parents are all worried, looking for him. His body ends up being found, and an investigation begins, like, immediately. It didn't take long for the police to, like, lead right back to Dave. He was immediately a suspect. Now, everything about this case, like this situation, is sealed. I'm assuming because he was underage, so it's not really clear what happened to Dave. But what we do know was that he ended up going to juvenile court, so that's something. But Robert and Dave's mom, she was never charged or arrested for her involvement. So Dave must have, I don't know. I was going to say maybe Dave kept his mouth shut about his mom. I would be like, it was my mom. She did that shit. But that's just me, I guess. Now, this feels like the first time Robert realized just how far his mom would go for them, and that sometimes crime doesn't come with a punishment. And maybe Dave is thinking the same thing too. Looking at you, Dave. So when Robert was around 28 or like 29, he had a major loss. First, his father passes away. And then just like a year later, his mom passes away. So his mom, she had a will, and in it said that the three kids, remember there was Linda, Dave, and Robert, they would split the family money and the land evenly. Now, Robert was named as the one to inherit like the family business, like run the farm essentially, but he wouldn't receive any money from the trust until he turned 40. So it's kind of like, okay, thanks, I guess. I don't know how he's feeling. But the family seemed to be having a bit of a bad run because soon after the parents passed away, the farm somehow caught on fire. again, leading to just like another major loss. Now, the family farm was completely destroyed. It killed around 600 pigs. Now, luckily, around 100 pigs and like 120 cattle would survive the fire, but like a lot was gone. It's unclear how the fire started, but Robert was the one left to rebuild. This is a side note in my own personal opinion, but I kind of low-key think that this was done on purpose for insurance money or something. But we'll talk about that later. Robert rebuilt the farm, and when he was doing that, he decided to make like a few changes to the business. So he added more animals like chickens, rabbits, geese, goats, emu. I'm struggling with emu animals. And he still had the cattle and the pigs. I mean, he was a full-on old MacDonald had a farm kind of guy. Okay. Also a new addition to the business, Robert started working with another butcher in town named Pat. So Robert, he would raise, the pigs, and then Pat would come in, buy the pigs, and then they would slaughter and sell the meat. It was a good partnership for them. It seemed to work. So Robert, he's kind of thriving at this point. Now, his brother Dave, he was around. He was working as a demolition contractor for the greater Vancouver area, and for bigger jobs, he would call up his brother Robert to like come out and help him. But those were like just their day jobs, because it was said that Robert and Dave would also indulge in some local insurance fraud. I guess local bikers in the area, they would steal cars and bikes, and then they would give them to Robert or Dave. And since Dave had access to demolition equipment, they were able to bury the stolen items. Once the job was done, they would report the cars or whatever, as missing or stolen. And then they would collect the insurance money. See, this is why I kind of low-key think that farm fire was an insurance thing, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, they were shady. Now, they were doing this for like a hot minute, but like the police, they ended up catching on, and they opened an investigation into these thefts, which ended up leading them right to Dave. Now, Dave, I guess he was brought in and he was questioned, but they didn't have sufficient evidence to make an actual arrest. So he was let go. Robert was never questioned, but this did land him on the police's radar for like the first time. So in 1994, Dave had a big job up in North Vancouver. It was like a 40-minute drive from the farm. So he called up his brother Robert. He's like, hey, can you come out and stay with me and like help me out? So Robert agrees, and he goes out there. He sets up his motorhome on the construction site so he didn't have to commute, So Robert would stay on this project with Dave for like about a year. During this time, their sister Linda, she was like a hotshot realtor now. She made the decision to sell off 3 separate parts of the farm to real estate investors who were looking to build homes. Now, I'm sure it was all communicated to Dave and Robert about selling, parts of the farm. But overall, like, it was a good deal because they made over $5 million on that sale, and they ended up splitting it evenly. I mean, it was fine though. Yes, the farm was smaller now, but they still had about 25 acres to work with, which a lot, Oh, just a little side note, I forgot to mention. When like Robert's away, he had people working for him on the farm. So like things are still being taken care of while Robert's away and stuff. So it wasn't like he just left it and that was it. So while Robert was staying in North Vancouver, he started to hang out in this area called the Low Track, and it was in like the downtown east side area of Vancouver.
Fall is fast approaching. Shop end-of-season outdoor deals at Ashley during the Labor Day sale, where you'll find outdoor favorites marked down at prices you won't believe.
Now, the Low Track was a place where, drugs, poverty, and sex work was very prominent. So Robert, on his free time, he would go hang out at this bar called the Abbey Hotel, where he would meet up with some friends. I'm like giving a side eye because I'm like, friends, okay. But he would meet up with some people for drinks, and then he would really go there to engage with the sex workers and see if they'd be willing to go home with him. He would offer them
All right.
money for
We got to 10.
drugs or just drugs in hopes that they would leave with him. So Robert would invite them either back to his motorhome, which was like 15 minutes away, or to go back to his farm, which was about 40 minutes away, where they could quote unquote party more. He did this for years. Then in 1996, Robert and Dave decided to start another business. They thought, hey, idea, why don't we do a non-profit charity? Yeah, I mean, they had this huge farm with lots of land. They're like, we could open it there. It could be a non-profit. It could have a mission. Well, according to them, the non-profit's mission was to, quote, to organize, coordinate, manage, and operate special events, functions, dances, shows, and exhibitions on behalf of service organizations, sports organizations, and other worthy groups. End quote. And you're like, Ray, like, what do we call it? They decided to call it the Piggy Palace Good Time Society. Just really rolls off the tongue. Piggy Palace Good Time Society. It honestly sounds like a good pizza place, right? I'm going down to the Piggy Palace to get some good pizza. Actually, after today's story, that's bad. That's bad because never mind. But it sounds like pizza. Great, Bailey. Well, unfortunately, this was no charity. This was no nonprofit. Instead, it was actually, well, it was really a front to cover up the illegal bar they set up in one of the slaughterhouses. Yeah, beer and slaughter. So, yay. The Piggy Palace, though, very popular. They had wild raves. There was extreme debauchery going on. Dave, remember the brother? Yeah, he was like great friends with the Hells Angels, a notorious biker gang with a reputation for violence, loyalty, and running illegal enterprises worldwide. Yeah, he's friends with them. So he decided to hire some of the members as security at the Piggy Palace. Now, some people believe that Dave was actually a member himself, but that's never been confirmed. But they would throw these wild parties. Robert and Pat, the butcher guy, they were there at these parties. They'd be cutting up meat, barbecuing. It sounds like a good time, kind of, not really. Kind of, anyways, people loved it there. It was said that on any given night, there would be up to like 2,000 people who would show up. Yeah, huge, right? It was a well-known party spot. So the Piggy Palace really seemed to be the place to go to do like illegal and questionable activities. But regardless, or because of this, it was very popular. So popular that off-duty cops and city officials were regular attendees at the Piggy Palace. Oh yes. Oh yes. I wish I could give you names, but it was like, it's so hard to actually find names. It's just people who were like, yeah, I saw that guy's a cop there or whatever, Even though Robert didn't have any issues with the cops at the Piggy Palace, he did make several decisions that eventually made him a person worth looking into. You see, in March of 1997, Robert, he went over to the low track area and he offered a sex worker named Wendy drugs and $100 to go out to the farm with him, and she accepted. So they drive out there, and when they get to the property, they head to his trailer. When Wendy gets inside of the trailer, she is looking around and she notices that there is a sleeping bag on the floor and a large roll of clear plastic next to it. She's like, love your decor. It's cool. Okay, they do the deed. Wendy gets her money and she heads to the bathroom. When she comes out, she asks Robert if she could use his phone. And he's like, sure, here. So Wendy, she's on the phone and she notices that Robert is coming towards her. She's like, what? Robert then tries to slip a handcuff on her wrist. So she's like, what the fuck? No. And she immediately starts to fight back. So there was a struggle. They were wrestling and fighting and going back and forth, kind of making their way into the kitchen area. So when they're in the kitchen area, she notices a knife. She grabs the knife. She starts slashing at Robert. She stabs him in the arm, and then she slashes his face from ear to ear. Then, go for her. Then she gets him good, because the knife, she stabs him, the knife ends up like chipping a bunch of his teeth as it went through his face. She's just going. So then she tries to make a run for it. But Robert somehow grabs her, and then according to Wendy, like things really just kind of got fuzzy here. But she does remember that they somehow ended up outside the trailer, now fighting by Robert's truck. So at this point, Wendy is, she still has the knife. It's in her hand, and according to her, she just stabbed him right in the back, and then he went down. So she's like, oh shit, she needs to like get help. So she runs to the nearest house, knocking on the door, no one answers. Then she sees a car coming down the road. So she runs out and she like flags them down. It was like an older couple that was driving the car, and they agreed to take her to the hospital. But before they drive off, Wendy points to the trailer and she tells them that, like, look, if I die, the man that killed me lives in that trailer. And then they drive off. So at some point during this whole fight, Robert was able to stab Wendy. Like, she had noticed she was bleeding from like her stomach area. She doesn't know like when it happened, but she knew she was bleeding. So the couple, they got picked her up. They take her to the hospital. When she gets here, she's taken back to go into like surgery. And the couple that took her to the hospital, they tell the staff that there was a man back at the location who was also hurt. So this part honestly was like a little confusing, because somebody goes back to Robert's place and picks him up and brings him to the hospital. I'm thinking maybe, is that like free healthcare? Because in America, people would be like, so? Anyways, but Robert, I guess, is picked up by an ambulance or something and is brought to the hospital. He's given like 150 stitches, and then he was released. Yeah. I was like, that's nice. He was released, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, why the hell wasn't he arrested? And honestly, couldn't quite find a clear answer. I think
he said,
my assumption is that the police had to wait for a statement from Wendy, and at this point she was like undergoing surgery. She was,
and with drugs involved, it's highly unlikely. Words, blah blah.
It's unclear why Robert was
I remember the whole thing
home.
happening.
So all this happens. Robert is released, and word gets back to Robert's brother Dave about what happened. So Dave calls up an old like family friend. Her name is Lisa. Dave asked Lisa to stay at the farm and take care of Robert while he was healing. And in return, Dave said that he would pay for her car insurance and like help her out or whatever, So Lisa agrees, and she moves in. She goes to the farm. She moves in for a bit, and she's staying like in Robert's trailer. So Robert is back at the farm. He's down, and Lisa's there. And Lisa, she starts looking around, maybe like snooping a little bit. I don't know. She's just like looking around as you do when you're in someone else's house. Maybe, I don't know. But she's looking around and she starts like noticing some odd things. First, she like came across a bunch of IDs, like ID cards, and they belong to like a bunch of different women. And she's like, okay, like that's weird. Then she found a bunch of different women's clothing. She's like, okay, also weird. Then she like looked a little closer. On some of the clothing, she noticed some of them had blood all over them. I don't know about you, but I would be out the door. I'd be like, okay, thank you so much for your time, bye. She takes note, okay? She takes note. Well, Robert, I guess he's like high on pain pills. He starts talking to Lisa. He's like saying some weird off-the-wall things. He's like, he was going on about how he wanted to finish off Wendy. Then Robert asked Lisa to get him some syringes. He specifically asked her to get half clean ones and half already used ones. Now Lisa saw this as like a big red flag for many reasons, but one that stood out the most, I guess, was that he was asking for syringes and she knew he wasn't a drug user. So she's like, why do you need those? Yeah, I know. You'd think it would be the blood on the clothes, but no, it was the syringes. is. Now, Lisa, she didn't go to police or anything, you know. Instead, she ends up telling a mutual friend, this guy, he worked on the Picton farm. His name was Bill. So she goes to Bill and she tells him, like, she's like, low-key, I think Robert could be a serial killer. Okay, she's like, the IDs, the blood-stained clothing, the syringes. What is he, like, poisoning people or something? She's telling this to Bill. Well, 17 days after the attack, Wendy, she luckily survived, and she told the police everything. So finally, Robert was arrested and charged for attempted murder, unlawful confinement, and aggravated assault. Now remember, the Picton family, they had money. So he was able to hire the best criminal defense attorney in Vancouver. But when it came time for the trial to start in January of 1998, Wendy didn't show up. So without an accuser, the judge was forced to drop all of the charges. The police did keep the clothes and the rubber boots that he was wearing when he attacked Wendy, and they kept that in evidence, which good thing they did, because it comes in handy later. So a few months after the charges were dropped, Robert, he goes back to the low track, and he picks up a woman named Sarah. Now Sarah, she worked out of this place called the Crack Shack. Yeah. It was a really popular pickup location for sex workers, but also I guess they had really great drugs. But he goes there. So on that night in April of 1998, Sarah and her friend, they were strolling the area looking for dates. So the friend, Sarah's friend, was picked up by a John, and they took off. So she's telling Sarah I'll see you later, whatever, The friend comes back, and when she gets back to the Crack Shack area, she notices that Sarah was nowhere to be found. Now that's fine normally, because it's maybe she got picked up, whatever, but it was odd because she noticed that Sarah's purse was still there. Now, you never leave your purse behind. So she just kind of waited around, and Sarah just never showed up. So after some time goes by and Sarah is a no-show, her ex-boyfriend and some friends and family, they went to the police and reported her missing. So the police just straight up told them that they wouldn't open an investigation because she was just the latest in a string of missing sex workers. And that they usually show back up, and it's really not a big deal. The police completely brushed it off. Well, time is still going by, and Sarah, she's still missing. So her ex-boyfriend ends up reaching out to a journalist named Lindsay Kynes, who was writing articles about missing sex workers in the area. This guy was the only one reporting it seemed like. So Sarah's ex-boyfriend reaches out to the journalist, and Lindsay Kynes, the journalist, decided to write an article about the situation and called out the police for not taking these disappearances seriously. The journalist was passionate about getting this news out to the public and really demanding for the police to step up and do their job. In July of 1998, the first article about the situation was published, and then it ended up turning into an 11-part series. And in the articles, they also put a hotline number where people could reach out, give tips, or just report more missing women. So this journalist was really trying to actually do something, because obviously the police were not. Okay, so do you remember Lisa? Huh? Do you? Okay, well, she was the lady friend who was staying with Robert and found all those questionable items. And then she went to Bill and told him all about it. Her? Yeah. Bill reads one of those articles, and he decides to get in contact with Sarah's ex-boyfriend to share what he knew. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't Bill just call the hotline or go to the police or something like that? Or why didn't Lisa go to the police? You have to understand, a lot of them were involved with drugs or sex work, and they didn't want to go to police in fear that they would get in trouble themselves. So they were all talking with each other in hopes
one more butterfly to get. That
someone else would maybe go forward, So Bill contacts Sarah's ex and tells him everything that Lisa saw. The bloody clothes, the IDs, the syringes, everything. Then went on to say that Robert often visited the low track to pick up women. But most of all, Robert had like this really big farm, and Bill's like, it would be very easy to hide things there, like people. You know what I'm saying? Bill actually tells Sarah's ex that he did try to contact police at some point, but he was told that there was nothing they, the police, could do. So Bill gave Sarah's ex Robert Picton's name and the name of his businesses, the farm, everything, in hopes that maybe...
How's married life?
Oh, good, you're awake. I sense trouble.
Sam.
On August 29th, stop and see the roses.
These people.
The Roses, rated R.
Say hello to your cheesiest craving yet.
Oh, snap.
That's right, Cheez-It made a chip.
Oh.
You know, he could help or do something. So Sarah's ex ends up contacting Vancouver police, tells them everything that Bill said. Well, technically he was recording the whole conversation, so he actually gives them the recording. And the police, they tried to follow up with Bill for months. Like they tried, but Bill had addiction issues of his own, and he was really hard to track down. So it definitely slowed things down. But there weren't two Vancouver Police Department investigators who were actually like paying attention to all these disappearances. At this point in 1998, in the Vancouver area, there were about 35 missing women on their list. So they were really thinking like a serial killer was in the area. So they brought on Deputy Inspector Kim Rossmo to help, who was like very well known for his work in criminal profiling. So Kim Rossmo helped put together a computer program called Rigel. Now Rigel like analyzed crime details, it calculated the chances the crimes were linked, and even identified potential suspects or serial offenders. And it turned out to be a very powerful tool. But at this time, it was 1998, okay? And technology like this was new, and a lot of the higher-ups at the Vancouver Police Department
screamed witchcraft and waved frantically. That's what happened.
Inspector Rossmo
Idiots.
coming in with his little computer program and telling them what to do. I know, it sounds like such a freaking joke, but it's true. So the police just didn't use this tool. Later on, one of the investigators that asked for Inspector Rossmo's help said, quote, Picton would have been in jail and all those women would have been saved, end quote, had the higher-ups taken him, Rossmo, or the case seriously. In September of 1998, another article by Lindsay Kynes
I forgot what I was doing and I got lost.
About the missing women, and once again was going in hard, calling out the police for not doing anything. Now people in the area who are reading the article, they're becoming outraged, they're demanding that the police step up, that they do something. And honestly, those articles, they really generated a lot of buzz and actually caught the attention of the television program America's Most Wanted, and they did a full-on episode about the missing women. They also offered a $100,000 reward for information about the case. So this was good for the victims' families and whatnot. At least someone is helping or trying to help, talking about it, right? Well, the Vancouver police, they're a little annoyed and upset, and they couldn't handle the negative PR anymore. So they were fine, we'll do something. It was said that before these articles came out, there was this unspoken rule amongst the police departments, that sex workers and lower class people were disposable, and it was suggested to not waste resources on them, allegedly. But I'm sure we believe that because they did nothing. Well, now Inspector Rossmo was confident that his technology could actually help catch this person, right? So he shared his findings with the police department, but they completely dismissed him. On top of that, he was pretty much fired. He was let go. Well, technically, his contract didn't get renewed, but he knew why. So Inspector Rossmo he was just trying to help. I don't know, maybe even like do his job, right? Luckily, there were some in the police department that were like still taking this seriously. And in May of 1999, the Vancouver Police Department organized a group who were dedicated to review the growing number of disappearances of women in the area. And this like dedicated team to the case, they were called, or it was called, Project Amelia. So Project Amelia was able to gather a lot of DNA, information about the missing women, and even received tips mentioning Robert Pickton by name. So the police, I mean, they did take this seriously, and they followed Robert. They followed him around for about like 2 weeks, but they saw no unusual activity or much of anything. Plus, at this time, they had no witness statements or anyone coming forward, so it was just kind of like they couldn't do anything. Over in Port Coquitlam, officers also had like Robert on their radar, but without, again, anyone coming forward, anyone accusing him of anything, there was nothing they could do. So things just went cold. Everything was at a standstill. But in the year 2000, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, aka the Mounties, they got a hot tip. So Robert, he had a lot of like on again, off again girlfriends. I didn't mention them because all the names get confusing. I mean, for me at least. But one of his like on again, off again girlfriends was a woman named Lynn. So Lynn, she went to the Mounties and she told them everything she knew. Lynn told them that she actually lived with Robert for a few months in 1999. That they slept together, she cleaned his trailer, he'd supply her with drugs, and occasionally the two of them would go out and pick up sex workers to bring back to the farm. She said that there was this one night where she and Robert, they went to New Westminster and they picked up a sex worker. When they got back to the farm, the woman and Robert went to the trailer to have sexual relations. So Lynn, I guess she was out in the living room, she was just kind of waiting, and she starts to doze off. She said all of a sudden she was woken up by like a super loud noise, and there was like this very bright light coming from the barn outside on the property. So she's, you know, like, what is going on? So she gets up and she goes to check it out.
Why do
She
I have to meet
said
you in your house
that
when you're
she
right
walked
there?
into the barn, and that she was immediately hit with like a terrible smell. Okay, so she's like, Then she kind of like looks directly, you know, directly in front of her, and she realizes that she's staring at someone's toes. So she's trying to like process, what am I looking at? And she looks up and she sees that it's someone, it's freaking body or something. Someone's legs are dangling from the ceiling. What's that one mean? No, 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 no. So Lynn, she's like, oh, what the fuck? You know, so she screams, obviously. She's in total shock. Robert, he's in there. He pulls her like further into the barn, and he closes the door. Lynn said that she like looked around. She's like looking around, right? And she notices that on the table, it was covered in blood, and there were like dark clumps of hair on it. She's like, what the fuck? She looks at Robert, and she realizes that he is covered in blood as well. No, 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 no. That's all I could think of. My brain just went there. Poor Lynn. Lynn said she was completely frozen. She's trying to comprehend, what the hell am I seeing right now, you know?
I wasn't always here, but thanks to Purdue Global, I got my literal dream job.
But she knew that this person that was hanging was the woman that they had just brought back to the farm, because she recognized the red toenail polish. Trauma. Oh gosh. So I guess Robert, he's like trying to calm her down, and he tells her,
Calm down, bitch.
quote, she's just like a pig anyways. It's all right. It's gonna be all right. End quote. Okay. Robert then threatened her by saying, like, if you say a word to anybody or do anything, you will be right beside her. So Lynn freaked the F out. She just wants to get out of there. But he like won't let her out of his sight. Eventually though, he ends up calling her a cab. He gave her $100 so she could buy drugs and liquor, and then told her that he would pick her up the next day. When this originally happened, it messed Lynn up. Like, she ended up fleeing the area. She went off the radar for a bit, and she was gone. But finally, she wanted to come forward and report her experience. And this was like, great. This is exactly what they needed, right? Well, unfortunately, something happened. Personally, I think Lynn was threatened by someone because she ended up going back and recanting her statement, saying that she made it up. No. The Mounties, I guess they did question Robert, but like, he didn't say a peep. And without Lynn's statement, they had nothing. And once again, like, they were back at square one. In 2001, Robert, still doing his thing at the farm, working with his butcher partner, Pat, and at times he would be working with his brother Dave, like with his business. I guess a year earlier, in the year 2000, the Piggy Palace Good Time Society, they had lost like their nonprofit status, and they were formally disbanded for failing to file required financial statements. So they had to shut down. So like with this loss of income from the parties or whatever the F they were doing, Robert, Dave, and their sister Linda ended up selling more of the farmland, and they invested in rental properties. Well, over in Vancouver, the police department, they were making no progress. They were very high and mighty, telling everyone there was no serial killer in the area. Like, shut up, you guys. Get over it. But the public, they didn't believe them. They did not believe them. That internal team called Project Amelia, they completed their case review, saying that there were now 45 missing sex workers from the Low Track area. So, like, the number was growing. Or someone just wasn't being honest about the number. Either way, 45 women. So naturally, our favorite journalist, Lindsay Kynes, put out another article about the missing women and like actually giving a full number based off of that report. And the public, again, put more and more pressure on the Vancouver police to do something. So the police decided to actually invest more resources into the investigations and started to work with other departments and agencies, finally. So the Vancouver Police Department, they ended up interviewing 130 sex workers in the area, and they asked the women, like, hey,
all they gotta do is ask Charlene, she knows.
Bad date experience, or like a man who just really scared them. You know, they were looking for a pattern, a name that was repeated over and over again. And throughout the interviews, Robert's name did not really come up. But you know whose name did come up? His brother Dave. Isn't that weird? Yeah, and it wasn't just like one time. It was a handful of times. You know what's even more weird? They kept getting the name Dave Picton. And you know what's the most weirdest thing of all? He was never brought in for questioning that we know of. Now, tell me what that's about. Now, it was said that this is what like got the Picton name on their radar again. But I could sit here forever going like this, because why wasn't Dave brought in? Just a little weird, isn't it? Anyway, so the Picton name is on their radar again. So in late 2001, once again, police finally got the information that they needed. Solid information on Robert Picton, a former employee who who worked on the farm for Robert, he shared with the police that Robert, had several unregistered and illegal firearms on his property. And
Boss.
With this information, police were finally able to get a search warrant for the farm. I know. Because I was like, so it wasn't the other allegations and stuff that was mentioned, it was the firearms. But okay, fine. Like, it's movement. It's movement. But at least now they got their in. They finally got a warrant. While filing the warrant request, the investigator from Port Coquitlam PD, they saw a note on Robert's file saying to contact Vancouver police if anything came up. Yeah, so this little note and all that connected all the investigating police departments for the very first time. Because this entire time, they were not talking to each other, these departments. Because Vancouver had their own police, Port they had their own police, New Westminster, the Mounties, like none of them were talking to each other. I know, very frustrating. So on February 5th, 2002, police were finally able to search Robert Picton's farm. Thank God. So he was arrested. Did I mention that? Well, he was arrested. Okay, so he was taken away. Now they're able to search his farm. Mind you, it's huge property. So they look in his trailer and they see, this is where he had been living majority of the time. They found handcuffs, zip ties, a paper that had
Sup, ho?
lists
How's
of
she rolling,
women's
Taco?
names on it. They found women's clothing, purses, illegal guns, sex toys, and based off the images,
Illegal
I saw,
sex toys.
Dirty. Never seen a duster before. That place never been dusted. And then they found a very questionable item. It was a Weston 22 revolver, okay, with a curved plastic dildo covering the barrel. I was like, what? Robert said he used it as a silencer. Yeah. I was like, points for creativity, I guess. Oh, God. My nasty brain, and maybe your nasty brain went there too. I was thinking, did he insert it and then...
Yeah, he did.
Shoot it?
Yes, he did.
I don't know.
I bet you he did.
Well, anyhow. So also in Robert's trailer...
Boss! I forgot what I was doing because of Taco and got distracted.
And this inhaler belonged to a woman named Serena, who had just recently disappeared from Vancouver. Now, this discovery was the missing link that allowed the Vancouver police to now join the search at the Picton Farms for their own investigation. So again, Robert was arrested and he was being charged with storing a firearm, possession of a firearm without a license, and possession of a loaded, restricted firearm without a license.
Kitty.
And I was like, yay, finally. But don't get too excited. Because literally, the next afternoon, Robert was released on bail. Yeah. Remember, this family, the Picton family, they actually had money. Yeah, they act like trash, but they had the cash. And they bailed his ass out. So they bailed him out, and Robert was not allowed back at the farm because now it was considered a crime scene. So he ended up staying with his brother Dave, which was just right down the road. Now I guess police searching the Picton farm was very difficult and taxing. Now at this point it was 17 acres. There were live animals that still needed to be cared for. And I guess there were a bunch of dead animals all over the property. So the task force, they used heavy machinery to... I tried to explain it in a way that made sense.
How much did I...
They pretty much teared up the ground.
How much fucking
then they
stone
ran the
and
dirt
shit that I need to
through,
fix
a
the mill?
huge
6,000
conveyor
or some
belt
bullshit.
and screening machine, sifting for any trace of evidence that they could find. But it was a lot. It was a lot of work. Police collected a lot of DNA from Robert's trailer and just all around the property. Now, it wasn't just female DNA. No. They found about 40 male DNA samples as well. There's a lot of shit going on. Now, there was one specific DNA sample that led to Robert's rearrest. So on February 22nd, this was 17 days after his initial arrest, police found DNA in his trailer from a woman who, again, had recently disappeared. Remember, they found that inhaler from a missing woman, but finding DNA was like the concrete proof that they needed. Because in an inhaler, they can be like, well, you know, maybe she left it here or whatever. But DNA, blood, something like that, you know? They arrest Robert that day and they put him in like a holding cell, okay? But the police, they knew he's a tricky man, quiet man, slick man. And police needed to get some kind of confession out of him. So they put Robert in a jail cell. And in the same cell, they brought in an undercover cop acting as an inmate. Now his job, the undercover cop, was to strike
Nuts in
up
your
a
mouth.
conversation
Blah,
with
blah, blah,
Robert
blah, blah,
and,
blah,
like,
blah,
get
blah,
him
blah.
talking, bond a little bit, you know, in hopes to get like a confession. Meanwhile, their whole interaction was being recorded. So after some shooting the shit kind of talk, you know, for several hours, Robert started to open up, like bragging about his crimes. Oh, yes. So on the hidden recording, Robert admitted to killing 49 women and said his only regret was that he didn't make it to 50.
Lemon pie! Spaceman, get on my back.
The task force continued to search the farm. So when they were searching, they found human bones, flesh, hair, teeth, skin, nails. That's not all. They found body parts in some of the freezers where the pork was stored, and several heads that had been sawed in half. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. Even more disturbing.
Brain.
Kinda. Yeah, all of it's disturbing. The police found 3 bags full of ground meat that had human remains mixed into it. Yeah, I know. Was he selling it?
Yes.
Did he eat it? Was he eating it?
Yes.
Did his partner, Butcher Pat,
Yes.
know about this? Was he involved? I had so many.
Yes.
There was also evidence that some pigs
Yeah,
on
he
the
was
farm
eating them. Nom,
may
nom, nom, nom,
have
nom.
consumed human remains, given that the bodies
Sure, I've already
they
caught one of
found
them
were like
crickets
left
before.
in the areas where the pigs ate
go catch
their
it anyway.
food. And rumor has it, pigs eat anything.
Yeah,
I
they
thought
do.
Pigs are picky, and they are not. They will eat you right up. Now, unfortunately,
They sure
some
will.
of the DNA samples didn't provide enough evidence to be added to like his charge list. But in the end,
Wait,
though,
what's my questies?
Robert was charged
Questicles
with
are-
27 counts of first-degree
Still looking for a
murder.
caterpillar.
And his dumbass pled
Oh, right.
not
fuck.
guilty.
I gotta go process.
to all counts. He's like, it was the pigs. It wasn't me. So he's sitting in jail waiting, and like 5 years go by. Finally, his trial starts. It's in January of 2007. So this time, they were able to bring in some key witnesses. His ex-girlfriend, Lynn, remember her, who saw the body in the barn?
Nice.
And also his partner, Butcher
All right,
Pat.
I need a
Now,
sword.
get this.
A
Both of them,
sword.
Lynn and Pat,
Thanks.
they were both originally arrested for their involvement with the murders. as
Lovely.
well. But both of them took plea deals
Sword.
and testified against Robert.
Horse.
I know. I was like, wait. So were they involved? And they were just taking the plea deal? What? But most of all, I was like, what about Dave, though? Where's Dave? Or Linda, the sister? I don't know if she was involved or anything, but like, something.
Of course she was.
Right? So in court, it came out that over 80 different DNA samples were discovered, like at the scene, including some DNA from the rubber boots
Question mark butterfly
collected
is
from Robert's
garbage.
fight with Wendy, his sole survivor. Yeah, remember I told you that would come in handy. Robert's defense lawyers claimed that the farm was like a beehive of activity, that other persons, unknown and known, used Robert's place to kill the women, without him being involved.
Because they had
And
a
that
fucking
would
agreement.
explain
He
why
rocked
there
with
was
the
so much DNA
Angels,
found
dumbass.
at the farm, both male and female. His
Duh.
defense also said that, you know, Robert's intelligence very low, so his confession was just made up, and that he was just trying to impress his cellmate. Robert's team, they, you know, cross-examined Lynn, and they questioned, like, why she took her statement, her original statement back when she first shared it with the Mountings, and they're giving her a hard time about that. And Lynn told the court, like, that she feared for her life, but now that Robert had been arrested, she felt safe telling the story or sharing her experience, and she was sticking with it. So on December 9th, 2007, Mr. Robert Picton, he was found guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder, even though he was charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder. I know. I was like, wait, what? Huh? Why second? See, in Canada, the difference between like first degree and second degree murder comes down to how much planning was involved. First degree is like premeditated, carefully planned out, while second degree is more spontaneous, more like a crime of opportunity. Regardless, Robert received a sentence of 25 years to life. About damn time. Look, in 2010, Robert's lawyers, they felt that his conviction was the result of an unfair trial, and they filed for an appeal. It went to the Supreme Court of Canada, and they were like, no, dude. They ruled that the conviction still stood. There's a lot more like nitty-gritty detail there, but like at the end of the day, everything stood still. Or still stood. You get it. Now, once the trial was over, the Vancouver Police Department, they had problems of their own. Because
they're a
an
fucking joke.
investigation was opened regarding their handling.
Welcome to the Klondike Adventures game. I promise it's the best one you've ever seen. Get ready for the expeditions in the wild.
Of this entire case. I mean, obviously, they freaking blew it. Right? How they handled everything.
Yup.
The lieutenant, governor, and council ordered an inquiry, and in 2012, when the report was done, and they realized that the police department seriously dropped the freaking ball, it led to 63
never had the ball.
recommendations for improvement to ensure this never happens again.
Oh, yeah.
Have they applied these 63
No, they have
recommendations
not.
since then? I hope so, but
No, they've not.
Let's be real here. I don't know. I want to think yes, but
Nope.
you know, hopefully.
Nope.
So
Some of
where
them.
are
Not
we
really,
now?
though.
Well, Robert was kept in a maximum security prison, and just last year,
Millhaven.
in May of 2024, yeah, I was like, what? He was attacked by another inmate, left him in a coma, and then Robert Picton, he died on
that's so
May
sad.
30th, 2024. Wow. His brother Dave, I was looking at you, Dave. I was looking at you, Googling you, trying to find out
Okay, I need to
everything
not
that's been
eat
on
that one
you.
because I need to take it.
Something ain't right with you, Dave. Dave, in my personal opinion, literally got away with everything. Is still living and working in the greater Vancouver area, running a demolition business. His sister Linda, remember Linda? Yes, not much is known about her. Obviously, she really seemed to like stay out of everything. I just get a don't you get a little like feeling? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
She just
After
stayed
all
out of it.
this,
No, she didn't.
So after
Boys are stupid.
Robert was convicted and everything, Linda and Dave, they actually sued the city and the police for not receiving money to repair damages made to the farm during their search. I was like, get the fuck over it. They also, in the end, like sold off most of the farm, and now there
There
are
it is.
homes and commercial
15.
properties on the land.
Nice.
I did a little Google Street View, and I was like, ugh. Cute little house on an area where there were bodies and stuff. Okay, that's fine though. So some of the families of the victims, they actually banded together to sue the city, provincial, and federal governments, as well as the RCMP and Vancouver Police plus Robert's
Ballsack.
siblings. The family
Siblings.
believed that the siblings had to know what Robert was doing. They just felt they had to know. But without any like physical proof, the siblings, they were dropped from the lawsuit. But, you know, all the government and the police
My
and all that,
God!
they still were being sued. And the case ended up settling, and the victims, their families, did receive compensation. It doesn't bring the victims back, but, you know, it's a small, like, accountability win, I guess. I don't know. In a wild turn of events, Robert's ex-girlfriend, Lynn, who testified against him in court, well, she ended up getting convicted and, like, sentenced to 12-month suspension for threatening her boss and her boss's family on, like, numerous occasions in October of 2022. And the only reason I bring that up is because there was rumors that Lynn was involved with the situation that was going down on Robert's farm, but also because during this situation, she left a voicemail to her target saying, quote, "You know what, you stupid bitch? We're going to raise pigs, and you're going to be the first one I feed to the pigs. You got it?" End quote. And that to me was like, oh shit. Was she? You know what I'm saying? Anywho, that, my friends, is the story of Robert Pickton. I'm just now realizing everyone knows him as Willie, and I've been calling him Robert this whole time. So if you're confused there,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
Willie Pickton.
Yeah. Anyways, my thoughts here. Look, listen, and this is all my personal thoughts. I personally feel like Robert did not work alone. There was lots of male DNA found on the property. Yes, they held lots of parties and that piggy palace or whatever. So yeah, there would be a lot of DNA there in general. But like there was male like blood found on some of the objects. I just think a lot more people were involved, and Robert did not work alone. In my
They
opinion.
were! Duh! You fucking started out the whole thing by saying he hung out with the angels and had an understand.
They could go to the Pickton farm and easily get rid of people, or have Robert get rid of people. Like there was some kind of deal
for so
going on
long.
like that.
For
You know what I'm
so
saying?
many
Some
years.
people say that
It
Dave,
was
the brother,
not news.
he was like a
It was
member of
like
the Hells
not
Angels.
even. I don't want to call it an inside
So-
joke, but it kind of was.
What if, in my imaginative brain, like what if the
Oh, okay,
Hells
hang on.
Angels were like,
Oh, I
"Hey,
only
we should
need
get rid of
200
that,"
stone and
you know,
150
Dave's
wood.
like, oh yeah, I got a farm. Like, don't worry, Robert will
That's
take
what
care
happened.
of it. Willie.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like a deal like that. Again,
Yes.
Dave was named by sex workers as being aggressive and scary.
Yeah.
That he would intimidate people if they spoke up about things going on at the farm. He threatened to like rape people, get rid of people. I searched high and low as to why Dave wasn't brought in for questioning by police, like at all. So this made me think that the off-duty police, you know, the police officers, the city officials that hung out at the farm and the higher-ups, they were all protecting his ass because if he got arrested, he was gonna rat on everyone.
Duh!
I would bet money.
Welcome,
that's probably
welcome
why he wasn't brought in,
to the
because
rest of
he
us
was-
at
they
the
was probably
party,
Like, oh, you want to
aware
arrest
of
me?
what's
Well,
up.
I'll name all you bitches. And
Welcome
you all
on
gonna come
in.
down with me. In my opinion. Thank you. Just had to make that clear. Plus, Dave had that demolition company. You don't think he could hide bodies? I bet you there are bodies under those houses that they built on the property. I bet you there are bodies under. Who knows? Plus, another thing I was thinking about was
We knows
remember
because
Robert
we're Canadians
was
and we hung out
slower,
with the
you know?
sketchies.
Maybe Dave just. I'm not saying Robert was like a good person and didn't do anything bad. He did bad things, okay? But maybe Dave also was taking advantage of that a little bit. I don't know. Let's say Dave was like he killed someone in my fake story, and then he would go to Robert and be like, "Hey, I need you to handle this. Thanks. Get rid of this." You know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about this whole story made me feel like Robert was the go-to guy to like handle things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you go to him and you'd be like, handle it, and then he would. He was still a bad guy doing his own like shitty stuff too, but I don't think it was just him. And then plus having the Hells Angels on your side, I bet the Pictons felt like they were untouchable, and they kind of were. And then obviously, if the police departments actually did their job and cared about missing women in general, you know, maybe, just maybe, a lot of the disappearances could have been prevented. Not even maybe. Probably. I was over here naive, I guess, thinking that police in Canada they're probably so much better and actually like do their job.
No, they fucking don't.
They're all the same. The story of Robert Picton is an awful reminder
Okay,
of
who
how
wanted a hay
many
bale?
systems failed
This girl.
the
Where is she?
victims long before he ever laid a hand on them.
Where are you?
And how the most vulnerable are often the easiest to overlook. And at the end of the day,
she that one
they
up there?
all deserved better. And something bigger is going on too. But I would love to hear what you guys think.
I'm listening to
do you
Electric
think
Callboy.
Robert Picton really acted alone? Or do you think something more was happening behind the scenes? Am I losing
Okay,
it?
it wasn't
No,
her.
I think whatever. Let me know. Do you
Where'd the
really
fucking
think
little
that
girl at?
we'll ever really know what went down on the Picton farm? I don't know. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, we
Let
know
me
what went on the farm
down-
because I'm related to the Hells Angels. Because that farm has existed for many, many, many years at that point. So we knew. We already done knowed.
Hi friends, how are you today?
True crime Q&A.
I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. My name is Bailey Sarian, and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. New theme song. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bailey Sarian, and on Mondays I sit down and I talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin, and I do a makeup at the same time. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, I would say subscribe. It's free. But listen, today we're doing something a little different. I went on my Instagram, boop, 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 and I was like, hey, do you guys have any questions? Like, let's do a little Q&A. Let's do some like
this
kind of
fucking hay bale?
fan theories out there on some cases we've already done. So I'm going to read some of your guys' questions you have, and let's
Mary.
talk about some
Oh.
cases and some theories that you guys
I have to wait
thrown
until
out there,
Saturday.
and just kind of talk about some episodes that we've done in the past as well. Listen, let me have this, okay? I just did some very hefty stories recently. I needed a little breather. So I thought I'd do this.
Network.
I mean, what'd I do? Menendez, Zodiac, Lydia, whose name I got wrong. Her name was Lyda. Didn't find out until I was done filming. It's like, oh my God. In the comment section, everyone's like, is it Lyda or Lydia? And I'm like, you guys, I'm dumb. Okay, so I'm gonna do my makeup too, because I'm a little crusty dusty. So might as well like get ready for my day. I pulled some products. Do any of you remember when I used to do
How
my
many
old school
days?
Get Ready With
6
Me's,
days.
and I would just sit
4
and talk?
days.
That's what this is kind of giving.
9 days. 5 days.
And I love it because I miss that.
6 days. How much
But I
is-
pulled some products, so like I
There's
haven't
days left in our
used
calendar.
in a while. So if my makeup looks questionable today, just know I'm playing. Don't put pressure on me.
Where the fuck is my...
Let me have some fun. You know, we all have those products in our drawers that just kind of sit there and you look at them and you're like, I don't want to get rid of you, but I'm going to use you one day. So I pulled some of that stuff. So here I go. I'll list what I'm using down below if this turns out cute or something. I don't know. Anywho, let's start with some questions. So, first question, here we go. Satan's Little Snack. That's the username. Has there ever been a case where halfway through research you decided you weren't going to do it? Now, I saw a handful. I get asked this a lot, actually. If, like, there has been a case where halfway through I was like, I'm not going to do it. I was trying to think. I was thinking. And there really, I can't name one off the top of my head. There has been a couple of cases where I just had to, like, abort mission because there really wasn't any information. It would be like 1 or 2 lines here and like I couldn't find anything else. And it was like, okay, there's nothing here. So there have been like a couple of those. I think for the most part though, here I don't like to do stories that involve kids, you know? I really don't. So those, like, usually if I realize like there are a lot of kids involved, I'm like, no. But usually I just go for it. Thank you for your question. At a Ferris_wheel, great name. What's the case that creeps you out the most? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. You know, okay. I think one that creeps me out the most is still, it's an old episode, The Toy Box Killer. Do you remember that? Okay, way back when. Did a story about the Toy Box Killer. And this is when I went on that long rant about that little town called Truth and Consequences. That was the name of the town where all of this took place. And it was like, what the hell is up with that name? Well, I found out there was a TV show called Truth and Consequences. It was a game show, and they had some kind of raffle, and if you won the game or whatever, you have to pick the name of your town, and they would name it Truth and Consequences, whatever, doesn't matter. But the Toy Box Killer guy, he had a big piece of property. He would pick up ladies at a local bar. He would drug them. He would take them back to his creepy ass trailer. He would tie them up to he got a you know when you go to the gynecologist and you get in that stupid chair and you have to put your legs in those stupid things? He got one of those in his trailer. So he put the victims in there, put them in there. He would tie them up to the chair. He would leave them in there until they woke up. And when they would wake up, the victims, a recording would be playing. And it was a recording that he made. It was all about what he was going to do to them, how they were bad people. And you can listen to the recording online, and it's just so creepy.
Hello there. Are you comfortable right now? I doubt it. Wrists and ankles chained, gagged, probably blindfolded. You are disoriented and scared too, I would imagine.
And then he would come in and he would allow his friends to come in and do whatever they wanted to the victims, and the whole thing is just so disturbing. And a lot of the times the victims would be just so drugged, they wouldn't even remember a lot of it. Most of the victims wouldn't make it out alive. There was one victim who made it out alive, and she'd had no memory of it until police officers, because he also recorded everything on videotapes. So police officers, they eventually catch the guy, they find the tapes, and they end up finding the victim. And they're like, hey, do you remember this guy or whatever? And she starts having flashbacks of yes, I kind of remember him. And then they show her the tape. She has no memory of any of this happening, so she's seeing for the first time what happened in the trailer, and it was a whole thing. It was awful. He gets caught, arrested, and then his dumbass, as soon as he gets arrested, and a week later has a heart attack. Lame. But it was dark. It was gross. It was disturbing. That one for sure creeped me out, just because of everything I said. It was disgusting. And just knowing that there's such creeps out there like that. Kennedy_Saint_Dennis. Is YouTube your full-time job, or do you have a day job? So yeah, YouTube is my full-time job. Yeah. So I know what you guys see, it's just 1 or 2 videos a week or whatever, but so much work goes into dark history and murder mystery. I got a whole team helping me out here, okay? I got editors, I got researchers, I got writers. With dark history, so much research, writing goes into those episodes to make sure that we're sharing factual information. It's yes, my delivery is kind of haha, funny, whatever, but what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is facts. We're always going after facts. And with every single episode, we make sure to get an expert to review them. So we have to find an expert to make sure that we're telling the story correctly. And then it goes through legal to make sure, we're legally, are we good? And then for murder mystery, it's the same thing. Research, I just started working with a new researcher. He's incredible. And he gathers all of the information, fat packets of research. And before it was just kind of I learned how to get court documents, how to just find all the information, but it would take forever. So now it's like having someone do that is incredible and like just gather it all for me. And taking that fat packet, going through the whole thing, right? And then writing the story. Usually when I do like a murder mystery, I just get really involved. I watch every video I can find about it. If there's like interviews or documentaries about them, I'll find books to read just to really fully make sure I understand the full story and not just Wikipedia or something, you know? And then the same thing, like once the script is done, the writing's done, then it has to go through legal, make sure everything that's good. And filming. A lot of people ask like if I plan what makeup looks I do for murder mystery. It's like, no. Usually when I sit down, I'm like, today I'm feeling purple or something, you know, and I just kind of go for it. I think maybe if I did plan my makeup a little bit more, it could probably help me out. Because some days I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. But I don't. I'm a free spirit. But yeah, so a lot of work goes into making dark history and murder mystery. And it is my full-time job. And I love it. It's so fun. Like, I really found a love for storytelling throughout the years, which is so random. Is it? Yeah, I never really thought I would. My whole life is murder, true crime, and in history. And when I go home, all the stuff I read, even on my free time, is still usually either true crime related or history related. And I'm really, it's like, maybe I should find like another hobby, but then I always end up like tying back to true crime or history or something. So I need to find a balance. I need hobbies. Thank you for your question. Thank you. Oh, is it a twist off? I think I broke it. At Braylon, _, 15, asked, what serial killer scares you the most? For me, it's Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez is pretty creepy, especially when he like filed his teeth down. Like, that's psycho. That's psycho. What's a serial killer that creeps me out the most? Who scares you the most? I'm going to say Zodiac, only because it's top of mind, because one, this person never got caught. Two, because this person like killed, and this is gonna sound gross and stuff, but like normally when a serial killer kills, it's like they usually like sexually assault the victim or something. Like they rob them, there's something. But with the Zodiac killer, it was just like so random. No rhyme or reason. He didn't stalk or anything. He just like found people and like killed them. And like that to me is really creepy. Oh, but then BTK, yeah, he was creepy too, because he was the stalker type who would follow people, break into their homes, and would make them do awful things. Wait, that might be my answer. He was pretty gross. He was like a Cub Scout leader, leader of the church or whatever. I'm sure I'm gonna like be, you know, when you drive home after like an interview or something and you're like, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. That's gonna be me right after this. I think BTK, final answer. And Zodiac, we'll go with that. Thank you for your question. Nice. I mean, Richard Ramirez is a good one though. Kooky, he was a kooky one. I'm gonna try these concealers. I'm very excited. At PYT, _Hannah _. How old were you when you got into true crime? That's a great question. My mom was a 911 dispatcher. I've mentioned this before. Growing up, and I would beg her to like let me go to work with her. And you know, looking back as an adult, I'm like, she should have never taken me to work with her, but she did. And so I was young. I was like 9, 10, I don't know. But I would sit in, I'd put on the headphones, and I would listen to like the 911 calls coming in. It was like, whoa, you have no idea what's really going on like right now, every single day. And it's just crazy. I don't know. It was like my first introduction to, I guess, just the real world. But it also got me just really curious about like, why do these things happen? Why? I always had like, why was my favorite question. Why? That I feel like is kind of like really where it started, but also I feel like it was JonBenet Ramsey. I was super young when that happened, but I remember it being all over the news and thinking to myself like, oh, you can die when you're kid, like it was a new thing I was realizing, and it was, again, why though? I thought you only died when you got older, and the fact that, like, still unsolved, everyone has their theories, and it's like, with that one, will we ever know really the answer? I don't know, but yeah, it started then. I've always kind of been a little morbidly curious, I would say, and that's, I think, okay. I mean, that's how people become, like, investigators and shit. It's the curious ones. But it definitely started young. Thank you for your question. At Sydney_Brianne is asking, how are you? That's such a nice question. Thank you. You know, not a lot of people ask. I'm good. I'm great. I can't complain. I'm doing good. I am taking care of myself. I'm eating better. I'm sleeping. I've been like prioritizing a routine for the first time and like trying to stick with it. I just feel like a grown up. You know, for a long time I just like wasn't taking care of myself, and I thought I was, but I really wasn't. So now I just kind of been taking care of myself, and I would say like it's good. All good things. One thing I would like though, I think I'm ready for a pet. Yeah. You know, I had my dog for a long time, and then he passed away. You know how that is. Like, when you lose a pet, it's awful, and you're like, I can't get another. I can't get into
I want a bird.
another relationship like that. I'm not ready.
I want a talking bird.
I feel like...
Would that be a fantastic idea for me to have a fucking talking bird?
But also...
I have a talking human. Surely I could handle a talking bird.
Because I have to be responsible. And, like, I'm not home a lot. I work a lot. I'm always asking.
Listen, if I can befriend the goddamn
like,
America
I would really
squirrels,
like
I'm sure I could train a bird.
And I would adopt. Don't shop. Yes, but I'm good. Thank you for asking. That was very nice of you. At Arlie_girl444. What did you want to be when you were a kid? That's a great question. I was that kid who's kind of always getting, not in trouble, but kind of, because like I was the daydreamer. I was always in La La Land. I was very imaginative. And I also like did not do well in school. Okay, I did not do well in school at all. School and me, we don't work. So it was like hard because like as I got older, I had like no direction as to like what I was gonna do or anything. I went to community college and I just was still like, I don't know what the F I'm doing. I took art classes and I really enjoyed painting and drawing. I really got into oil painting and I was like, maybe I'll do that. And then you learn you don't make money doing that, right? So I just like worked retail for forever, and it was like, I just kind of thought I was gonna do retail for a long time. As a kid though, like realistically, I wanted to be like Britney Spears. I wanted to be Hilary Duff.
I didn't.
I wanted mainly to be Britney, but I knew that wasn't.
Nope.
No, I still believe I can maybe still be Britney. But when you look at poor Britney now, I want to be early 2000s Britney. Poor Britney now. Oh God, I'm watching her videos. What's she doing? I can't do it. Yeah, I don't know. I had no direction. So then I started doing painting and all that, right? So then one day I kind of made the correlation that painting and makeup were the same thing. Like painting faces, shadows, shapes, eye shapes, face shapes, and contouring and bone structure and everything you learn with like painting, it also applies to makeup. And once I made that connection, it was like, oh, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do makeup. So I was working at Sephora. I worked there for 5 years. I worked at Sephora, and I learned so much when I worked there, and I loved it. I loved making people just feel good about themselves and showing them like, look, you just like with these 3 products, boop boop boop, you can like change and just feel good and powerful and beautiful. And I loved that. And I thought I was just gonna kind of keep doing makeup. I was a freelance makeup artist for a few years. I did a lot of wedding makeup, and then I was a makeup assistant, so I would work with celebrity makeup artists and do that, and I learned a lot. And if you're a freelance makeup artist or freelance like hair stylist, you know your back hurts. Your back fucking hurts. So I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. But if I wasn't doing what I'm doing right now, I think I would still probably be freelancing and doing makeup of some sorts. It brings me a lot of joy. It really does. I love makeup because it's a way for me to paint every single day. Cute, huh? Kinda. I don't know. I don't know if that's an inspirational story at all. Anyhow, next question. ILM_Jordan. What are the 5 cases you struggled to cover on MMM? That's a great question. God, I can think of so many every episode because it's like sometimes there's so much information, and it's like I tell you guys all the time, I'm like, this could easily be a 5-part episode, and you're like, do it. I'm like, nah, I can't though, because for some reason, like if I do a 2-parter, YouTube for some reason just doesn't like that. People never watch the second part, so it's like, I don't know. That's not the point. 5 cases, I would say. Menendez brothers. I know I literally just did it, but that one was really hard. There was so much information, and there was so much that I had to decide, like, I really wanted to mention certain things, but at the same time, it was like, okay, this is like, I'm going on hour 3 here, like, I gotta, filming wise, and it's like, okay, you gotta just cut it out, and how do you make it make sense, and still talk. That one was hard. I really struggled with that one. So Menendez brothers, you know what? Let me just pull up my fucking YouTube. I'll tell you right now. Sorry. I've done so many episodes here. I think I've done almost over 200, or I'm getting close, which makes me kind of sad because if I'm over 200 episodes, then I didn't even celebrate. Oh, okay. Menendez brothers. Then what's his name? What is his name? Bozo. What's his name? Charles Manson. That took me forever to get there, but I got there. Charles Manson, because a lot of the times I think I have an understanding of like what the story is or whatever, and then once I start researching and like really reading everything, I realize I'm like, wow, I had it all wrong. And also I think a lot of us have been looking at this wrong. So with Charles Manson, I was so freaking deep in it, and like that one, I was so sick of him. Charles Manson, okay? Do you remember that Cannibal Cop episode? Well, if you don't, it's not that old. I did it not too long ago. Cannibal Cop was kind of hard to cover. If you watch the episode, I know we can all agree that like his fantasies about cooking and eating women and stuff was gross, and he was posting it online, and it was weird and stuff. But then there was like that dilemma of fantasy versus real life, and it was hard because like, should you go to prison for your dark fantasies? And like it was like a struggle of like, yeah, like, ew, gross, like he was so gross, his fantasies were so gross, but technically he didn't do anything. And like even with that, I'm like, ew, but what if he did? But what if he did? But he didn't. So it was like, and then there's that scary discussion of like, well, what if you are just truly, you have some dark fantasies and you share them, and what if you just get locked up forever for that? Should that be allowed? I think we can all agree no, but even I have hesitation, like, but it was like, it was real. It was real that one was kind of like a struggle. I still am like, I don't know. It was so gross and dark and twisted, and the fact that he was tying in real people with his fantasies is what made it seem like it was real and it was going to happen. But technically, he didn't do anything. They were just his fantasies. That one was hard. I was just like, and I read his book. Which was so, he's like, yeah, I thought about eating people. I mean, whatever, it's not a big deal. I mean, doesn't everyone like have something like that? I was reading it like, I mean, no, but okay. Yeah, so that one was kind of hard. Okay, you know who else who was kind of hard? Jodi Arias. I didn't realize that she had like such a big, she has like very passionate fans. So I'm over here thinking that we're all on the same page. We're like, she's crazy. I'm sorry, she is. And she brutally killed this poor man who didn't want to freaking be with her. And she just could not accept that. And she brutally killed this guy. She deserves to be in prison. And I thought it was like, we all agreed on that. And then when I uploaded the video and I was getting a lot of DMs and stuff about like, she didn't get a proper trial. You're not for women. like, I just didn't expect that response. Like, she has passionate fans.
Yes, my pretty!
She shouldn't be in prison. And that one, like, the story itself wasn't hard. It was more so the feedback afterwards where I was just like, what? Am I in a different world? Like, what am I getting wrong here? Sometimes it's that part that actually makes it kind of hard. She brutally murdered someone. Like, brutally. It wasn't like an accident or anything. Like, brutally, okay? You gotta be locked up for that. Sorry. Okay, I don't understand. Like, that doesn't make me against women. So fucking weird. Last one, Terry Schiavo. Terry Schiavo is one of those stories also where it was like, I remember hearing about it, but I never really understood the full story. So then once I started reading everything and about her husband and how he really, really tried everything he could to help his wife and his partner and be there for her, and how the media ripped him apart, how Terry's family was dragging him, and I just felt like, again, I had like no full understanding of the actual story, just kind of what I vaguely remembered. Like, her husband was bad, because I just remember hearing that all the time, and then you learn about it and you're like, oh my god, her husband actually was kind of like the partner you would hope to have in that situation, and he was made such a villain, and everyone just kind of owes him an apology, and then the freaking Pope got involved, and it was like, what the fuck is even going on with this story? This poor woman, at the end of the day, she wouldn't have wanted to be in that situation, and it was just a sad story. I read Terry Schiavo's husband came out with a book, like, telling his side. Terry Schiavo's family came out with a book telling their side, so I read each of their books. And Terry's family, I was judging. I was like, you guys are okay, all right. And it was just sad. It was really, really sad. You know, I think in the comment section too, you guys really kind of felt the same way, and yeah, it was a pretty deep story. It was just emotional too. 5. Yeah. So I think just top of mind, those are my 5. Great question. At Mini_Mosh. What's something about you that people would find surprising? I don't know. That's a good question. Thank you so much. What would people see fun? I don't know. Oh shit. Oh, you know what? When I was younger, I tried like all the sports, and I was trying to find something that I was good at or just like liked. So I did swimming for a while, and I went to like state. It was a state competition, whatever. So I won 2nd place. Yeah, I won 2nd place in freestyle, and I think I won. It was like 3rd or 4th or something in butterfly. That was cool. And then I quit because I remember there was this one time I was swimming, I was so tired that I started, I couldn't swim anymore, so I started to drown, and I was just at the bottom of the pool looking up like, I'm gonna die. And then after that I was like, I think I'm done. So I quit. And then I remember in high school I tried out for soccer. Because again, I was just trying to like find the thing. So I tried out for soccer, and I realized there was a lot of running involved. I really didn't take that into consideration. I was like, this is too much running. You don't stop. So I dropped out of that. I did tennis for a little bit, dropped out of that. I tried horseback riding. I fell off the horse really hard and never went back. I'm a quitter, I guess you can say. I used to play violin. I actually really enjoyed violin. I think what would be surprising now is like, I don't know. Yeah, is that surprising? Are you surprised? Oh, I was a cheerleader. Yeah, in high school, 9th, 10th, and half of 11th grade. I did cheerleading. It was like, it just kind of came easy, you know? It was fun. And I liked that you work together, you throw people in the air, trust. It was great, like bonding experience. But I went to cheer camp. This girl, she fell directly on my head. I went to go catch her. She fell on my head. I heard my nose crunch. I fell to the ground. I blacked out for a second. I remember coming to, and the coach was asking me, "What's the date? What's the date?" And I said something like, it was something off the wall, like pizza. And they're like, "She's not okay." So I had a concussion. And because, like, I don't know, looking back, this was very questionable, but there was no, like, doctor on site or anything. So I don't think I should have, like, went to bed or anything, but I sure did. Went on like normal. That was when I, like, knew I broke my nose. I knew it was broken. Never got it fixed until a year ago. A year ago, I got my nose fixed finally, and for the first time in my life since 9th grade, I can breathe out of my nose. It's been incredible. Are you surprised? Let me know down below. At G3LLWTEAS Dale Geltisdale. What do you do when you're not filming videos? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I read. I read a lot. Oh my gosh, it's so annoying. I'm always reading. I hate it. But I love it. Like, I love reading. I love learning. I've been taking art classes. Yeah, I've been taking art classes again. This is like a sketching class. I've never really been good with pencils at all and sketching. So I thought I would give this a try and
what's her pickle?
Do a sketching. We're doing figure drawing. We're doing portraits. We just started doing figure drawing, and it's been fun. It's been nice to do something like that I'm not getting graded on. You know what I mean? Like, there's no pressure to like do well. I'm just doing it for me, and that is nice. I haven't done something like that in a minute. I was taking sewing classes for a little bit. That was fun. But the classes were always like midday on a Wednesday, and it's like, yeah, I'm available at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. Like, okay, no. So that was kind of irritating because I would love to like continue doing that. That was fun. But other than that, yeah, I'm reading. Right now I'm reading this ridiculous book that I would not recommend. It's just like, it's about aliens. It was recommended to me.
All right, I gave the bitch a shovel. I'm
questioning why this person recommended it to me. But it's just like wild conspiracy theories. I like to read books that how do I word this? It's like I don't agree with what they're saying, but I just like to learn like other people's, what they have to say. Doesn't mean I agree with it or anything. So, yeah. I don't want to mention it just because like I feel like if you're in a vulnerable spot, it could easily suck you into some kind of weird dark conspiracy hole, and then you'll end up in a cult, and I can't do that to you. So it's a off-the-wall book. In summary, my takeaway with this current book I'm reading is that aliens are dolphins. That's the highlight so far I've gotten. So
well, yeah, duh.
It's different. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm reading a lot. I'm watching true crime documentaries. I'm taking my art classes, talking on the phone with my boyfriend, hanging out. I don't know, being cute. Yeah. So now, let's move on to some fan theories. Shall we? Hold on, let me squirt my face. Squirt. Okay. Scott Peterson theories. At DAILEENVERA 8244. Dilene Vera? Okay, hear me out. This is my theory, but I'm not sure if there's more information out there. So remember that Lacey's grandparents' inheritance went to her and her siblings once they turned 30. What if the siblings and Scott got together to make her disappear? Since the inheritance was going to be split in even parts, they wanted to have more for themselves. And since Scott wanted to be single again and was struggling financially,
Okay, who
they
wanted
told
to trout?
him they would give him some money if he also helped.
That lady.
Also, she was
Oh,
walking
shit,
her
where'd
dog,
she go?
and her dog was found without any injuries.
Where am I?
That means that the person that took her knew her, because if not, the dog would have attacked a stranger. They also made sure that Connor wouldn't be born, because if he was born, the part of the inheritance that belonged to Lacey would have been for him. Okay, I see what you're saying. So in your comment, you said heritage. I'm assuming you meant inheritance. Okay. Maybe. I guess my only hesitation with that is like when you get a life insurance policy or whatever and like you go missing, well, her body was found. Usually, like, you won't get your life insurance or inheritance for like 7 years or something. Like, there's a time limit. So I feel like they wouldn't get that quick result, but her body was found. I mean, I see what you're saying. It's a theory. Did they get money? I'm curious now. Did they actually get money? I don't remember. Okay, still Scott Pearson. At Rachel A.M. Ron 2430. A woman also came forward and said she was very pregnant at the time and had a close encounter with what she thought were two men trying to kidnap her, and something about that vehicle being seen in Lacey's neighborhood that day. The satanic cult theory sounds far off, but how much the media didn't want to focus on that tells me there may be something to it. So I've heard about this, and I was Googling. I still every once in a while check in, because I heard about this as well, that at the same time there was believed to be like a killer in the area who was targeting pregnant women at the time, but it wasn't mentioned at all during her case or whatever, because I don't know. Well, I think because the police, they need to like make the case needs to be closed. But it was interesting that there were like rumors about another killer in the same area going after pregnant women. It was like, was that ever looked into and taken a little bit more seriously? I believe there was like a woman who came forward later on who said she was like attacked in the same area as Lacey Peterson, and she was pregnant at the time, and she was able to escape, but they dismissed it. It was completely like dismissed. That they wrote the guy off as just like, nah, he was just like crazy or whatever. But it was like, what if I don't know. The truth is, like, the police might have looked into it. We just will never know, really, or maybe they didn't. They just wanted to put it on Scott. I don't know. I don't know what I think, but trust me, in the back of my head, sometimes I do think like maybe there was someone on the loose. Who knows? But then again, you look at Scott and his actions, and it's like
fucking grass.
He had like all the motive, right? Another woman. He was lying. He was living a friggin' double life, acting dumb, acting very suspicious. At the same time, it's like, how could it not be him? I think actually going back to that earlier question, that was a hard case to cover too, because it's like, I wanted to believe like he's guilty, but at the same time, he didn't really get a fair trial. Never mind, just go watch that video, because I don't want people coming after me. Because I don't know. But yes, I think maybe there could have been someone else working in the area, and who knows? I think he's up for like their resentencing or something soon, isn't he? Or a retrial? I think there's something going on. I gotta follow up. We'll see. Okay, now let's go to Zodiac theories. At Fern's blog 1968 said, my theory is that it was a small group of guys, a small psychotic friend group that nobody ever connected to each other, that committed the crimes. One of them could have had his mom lick the envelopes. If they were licked, there are those envelope wetter roll thingies. I don't know the names. When did those come out? Sorry. A small group of guys. I mean, okay, that's valid. That's a theory. I guess my only hesitation with small group of guys is that, like, you know, the killing at the lake where the killer in the costume, and it was kind of like it was one guy, right? So, do you think they were taking turns? I need some clarification here. Like, do you think they were working to, like, what was the goal? I guess just. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're allowed to have that theory, though, for sure. I kind of think it was one guy. I don't know what I believe.
Nope,
You know,
wrong
after
button.
doing that story, it was just like, shit, man.
Damn it!
There are so many different
It wasn't wrong
theories
button.
as to what... Like, some people believe that the Zodiac isn't even just one guy. It was just kind of like copycats. And, like, shit, that could be true, too. Because some people said he was a
Forgot about the
redhead.
TikToks again.
And... the main suspect, what was his name? Arthur? He wasn't a redhead, so I don't know. It could be a small group of friends. But you know what? Okay, here's the thing. If it was a small group of friends, people talk. People talk. No one can keep a secret, okay? No one can keep a secret. Someone would have said something by now. There's no way a small group of friends would be able to keep it a secret by now. They would have told one person, you know what I'm saying? But maybe. But I don't know. At Tiffany J8512, I think Arthur was definitely a weird and deranged man, but ultimately I think he was just obsessed and a fan or wannabe copycat of the Zodiac, or possibly knew or was friends with the Zodiac. I too thought for the longest time that he was legit the Zodiac, because how could he not be with all the damning, albeit circumstantial evidence, right? I was convinced. However, he didn't match the police sketch in the face. The fingerprints didn't match, and ultimately the DNA didn't match. So that is what made me change my mind. But I honestly believe he either knew who Zodiac was, or he was just like an obsessed fanboy of Zodiac, because the amount of circumstantial evidence was astonishing, and that much cannot be coincidental, in my opinion. I hear you. I know. I was kind of thinking that too. Like, maybe he kind of liked the attention he was getting, because people were thinking he was the Zodiac killer and, like, wanting to interview him and stuff. And, like, maybe he kind of liked that in a way. And, yeah, I mean, to your point, the DNA and stuff didn't match. Fingerprints didn't match. Yeah, I know. But then, to play devil's advocate, I mean, he could have been using... There were rumors that, like, he was putting glue on his fingertips so he wouldn't leave fingerprints behind. He could have had someone else like licking the envelopes for him. I don't know though. I don't know. I want to believe it's him, but then you go down the whole rabbit hole with hearing other people's theories and what they think, and you're like, shit, maybe it's not him. Did you watch though that Netflix? This is the Zodiac speaking. That's what it was titled. It was like 3 episodes. When I watched that, I was like, it's freaking Arthur. It has to be. But to your point, they've never, like, linked anything to him. Oh my god, I know. Who is it? And you're right, he didn't match, like, the sketches. I don't know. That one definitely kept me up. Like, what? Who is it? Well then, I mean, okay, that's great, but then who do you think it was, Tiffany J8512? Who is the Zodiac then? Who is it?
Where the fuck is
Do you think it was
Eland?
one person? I would like to see that one get solved. So we have some theories from the Tamla Horsford episode. Do you remember? Very suspicious story. Very shady people. Lots of comments in that episode with lots of good theories. We have one from @KylieMo. If she fell down the stairs, there's no reason to move her and say she fell off the deck. They could have just said she accidentally fell down the stairs. I think they pranked her by spiking her tequila with pills, and they dragged her to the deck and threw her off to make it seem like that's what killed her. If they were hanging out underneath when she died, roughly dragging her up the stairs by her wrist could explain the injuries. If they were hanging out underneath when she died, roughly dragging her up the stairs by her wrist, why would they be dragging her back up the stairs though? I mean, it's a theory. You're allowed to have your theories. I guess I just wouldn't understand, like, what? Okay, because remember there was like that lady who had all the Xanax or whatever? People who love their Xanax, and they don't waste it, from my understanding. So I feel like someone wouldn't waste one of their pills as a prank, but I could be wrong, you know? So I feel like pranking her and like spiking her drink, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But then why? I don't understand what you're saying about why would they throw her off in the first place? I guess to your point, like, why wouldn't they just say, like, she fell down the stairs, it was an accident? True. I think because, again, that lady was giving everyone pills. I don't know. That whole story is just fucking weird. And that poor woman, it was just, like, no answers. Bizarre. At Cassie Marie 2234 said, does anyone else find it super sus that she took a screenshot of her notifications but not of the actual app with all the info on it? And even more sus that the police didn't clock that as suspicious. Sorry, I'm just processing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there were a few comments mentioning the screenshots of the security system, of the door system, remember? There were some screenshots taken. And then the police ended up using those screenshots to kind of build like a timeline as to what they thought happened. Why didn't the police go into the actual app itself of the security system to get the full security, like open doors, opening and shutting, closed timeline versus just the screenshot of the notifications? Because she could have hit some of the notifications. I mean, she could have hit some, but then why? I don't know. That story made my brain hurt, right? Because, like, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I think the police were just too, they just, like, accepted it as an accident. And, like, that's why they didn't think it was, like, suspicious. And the guy had ties with the police. The whole thing was just, I think, mishandled. I think we all can actually agree. Yeah, I don't know. Making my brain hurt. Ow. Yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, there are a lot of comments about, like, the security system and how the police accepted, like, the screenshot of the door notifications and not, like, the app itself. Because you can delete specific and singular notifications. Yeah. Yeah, And it's, like, too late now. Everything's been fucking erased. And same with, like, her camera, of course, wasn't working that night. Like, the homeowners, their camera wasn't working. Of course it wasn't working. The whole thing was just fucking weird. So sad. It's like she just wanted to go off, like, hang out with some friends, have a girls' night, whatever, and she ended up dead. And, like, it was the most bizarre way. No answers. Okay, one more from Tamla. The Tamla episode. This is from Danielle Williams -U9X. I love the stairs theory, but why wouldn't they just leave her body at the bottom of the staircase? I believe she caught Jose and the Xanax chick creeping with each other. Oh. They maybe thought she was sleeping after being drugged so they could have a little session with one another while she's asleep. But she was on the balcony smoking. I think she was pushed to be silenced. Listen to the interview. The Zanny chick said Jean was cheating on Jose. She said it just so matter of fact, like she was trying to make Jean look bad. Maybe. I didn't think about that. Maybe she did hear something or see something that she shouldn't have. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But you saw that Xanax. That Xanax chick. Like, you think he would be cheating on with her? She was loopy as fuck. I don't know. But then again, men's behavior is always very questionable, isn't it? That's a good theory. Maybe. But why wouldn't they just leave her body at the bottom of the staircase? I know. Why did they move her? That's the question. I don't know. But she was moved. Like, we know that. She was moved. But why was she moved? I don't know. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good theory. Okay, next we have some theories from the Casey Anthony episode. You remember Casey Anthony? Did you see her appearance on TikTok? She got shamed right off that platform. At Steph Collins 728 said, a lot of people think that Lee, Casey's brother, is actually the father of Kaylee. What? Also, the family found this out, and so Casey either let her drown in the backyard pool or someone drowned her. Or a horrible accident happened and she drowned, and they didn't want anyone to find out how twisted their family actually was, so they just got rid of the poor baby. I'm sorry, but what grandparent waits a whole month without flipping out about their grandkid and kid's whereabouts unless you have a dad as an ex-cop and a mom and brother family unit that has obviously many problems and a lot to cover up? Processing. Okay, you're allowed to have that theory. Okay, but listen. But then in court, why would Casey Anthony say that her dad was the one like being abusive and whatnot, and not just mention her brother? Because I remember in court, like, she was like started making these wild accusations about her dad. So why wouldn't she, at that point, instead of throwing your dad under the bus, why wouldn't you just throw your brother if that's true?
Good question.
To understand.
Yep. Damn it! Got it!
Listen. But then in court, why would Casey Anthony say that her dad was the one like being abusive and whatnot, and not just mention her brother? Because I remember in court, like, she was like started making these wild accusations about her dad. So why wouldn't she, at that point, instead of throwing your dad under the bus, why wouldn't you just throw your brother if that's true? That's just my thought. I don't know. But obviously that family was fucked up. I mean, you're right. Like, if your grandkid is missing for a whole month, how are you, like, how does that, I don't know. But then again, they didn't know because Casey didn't tell them, and they weren't really checking in with Casey. She was living on her own, right? So they obviously weren't very close, or they probably would have known, or maybe Casey, wasn't she lying and saying that her daughter was around? So how are the grandparents supposed to know until they know? You know what I'm saying? But then also, because I've heard about, a lot of people think like that she did drown in the pool in the backyard, but then why did the trunk of her car smell like a dead body, and why was it like abandoned and stuff? Why wouldn't they just report it as an accidental drowning? Why would they go to such great lengths to cover all this up? Why wouldn't they just say she accidentally drowned in the pool? You know what I'm saying? Like, wouldn't that be an easier lie? I don't know. I think Casey Anthony killed her. She really did get away, didn't she? I think her parents, or her mom specifically, was covering Casey's butt because it was all she had left. She lost her grandchild. Now she was gonna lose her daughter. They were getting, dragged through the mud, the whole family. I think she just wanted it all to stop. She's in just freaking denial that her own kid could be such a demon. Referring to, like, Casey. I don't know. I just think it was really sad that she threw her dad under the bus and her dad, like, tried to kill himself or something like that. The whole thing was just sad. Oh, that woman. Also from the Casey Anthony episode, at Dorothea Lynette, I think that they did look in the bag and they saw their granddaughter, and that's what messed up Casey's dad so much. And in a panic and to protect their daughter, the mom helped dispose of the little girl, and that's why they found the blanket from the room with the body in the woods. That's something someone who loves a child would include with them in their final resting place. Ooh, that's kind of dark, huh? But yeah, you think the mom would be involved? I mean, maybe. Yeah, I think the, Casey's dad, he was heavily affected by this whole thing. That it just seemed, I believe that. The mom, I don't know what her deal was. Again, a denial, something. You really think maybe she was involved? She wrapped her in the, really? I mean, maybe because she was just trying to, like, protect her daughter, prevent her. But again, why would they, this is dark. But why would they dump the body in the woods where eventually it could be found? Again, this is dark. Wouldn't you, like, bury them on your property? because it's your property and like no one's gonna find it. Maybe, I don't, well, no, because if they report the daughter missing and the police come searching the house, they're gonna see like something was just dug up or whatever. Okay, Bailey. Maybe, I don't know. I guess I never personally thought like the mom was involved, but maybe, huh? Is the mom still alive? She was in such deep denial. It was insane. Didn't Casey Anthony's mom and dad, though, get a divorce? I hope they did, because poor Casey Anthony's father, he seemed like he was really fucking going through it. And let's say because like Casey Anthony, she had those abuse allegations. Like, let's say those were false, which I think they were.
We're out of time.
That poor man. I felt very bad for him. He knew something. He was carrying something heavy. I wonder if the Casey Anthony family, I wonder if they even talk about it, or if they just pretend it never happened. I wonder if they just, old school families like that who just like never talk about it ever again. I wonder. They just pretend it never happened. Okay, so we have some theories from the Jalea Davis episode. That whole story was very suspicious. It was ruled an accident. Her friends were all acting weird. Her body was found like pretty far from her vehicle. Vehicle had like blood spatter on the hood or whatever. Her clothes were found nearby. It was just a bizarre case. And still to this day, fucking bizarre. So we have a fan theory here from Georgie Nichols 3200. My theory is that Jalea was the passenger and she was being driven by someone else who was also under the influence. The driver was therefore driving recklessly and speeding before crashing into the divider. It was then the driver's head that hit the windshield, but Jalea flew out of the passenger side window. I'm following, yep. In a panic, the driver got out and tried to help her, but realized that she was obviously gone. In a state of shock, the driver began picking up her clothes and hanging it on the railing. However, the driver soon realized they would be arrested for manslaughter because they were driving while intoxicated and caused Jalea's death. Therefore, they sped off in her car and dumped the car after getting clear of the accident before fleeing on foot or having a friend pick them up. Yes. I could see that. Yeah, sorry, connecting the dots. I'm following. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, probably someone else was driving. They did hit the railing. I could see she flies out of the car. They're probably panicking, drunk, whatever. Like you said, get out, try to help, but like just in a panic start putting her clothes on the railing. Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. I guess my only thing is like, I just feel like at the end of the day, people freaking talk. And by now, somebody would have said something. But also, maybe not being. But yeah, I mean, I could see that. She was the passenger. Okay, yeah. I'm following. I think that's a good theory. But then who was driving? Another one from the Jalea episode, Lulu Killer Kitty 95. I think someone was driving her car and she was in the back seat feeling sick from drinking. She maybe asked him to pull over so she could throw up, and she went in front of the car so she could see. Right, okay. I think she removed her clothes as she didn't want to throw up on them, and whoever was driving hit her. That would explain the blood on the roof and trunk, and then drove down the road to flee the car. She likely hit the guardrail after falling off the back of the car. Oh, not a bad theory. Did they find vomit nearby the scene? I don't think they did. But then again, do we trust that they even freaking looked? You know? But I could see that, right? You would get in front of the car to barf, maybe? Yeah, you're right. Because, like, if there was blood on the front and the back, she would have to get hit and then, like, yeah. You guys, I don't know. That could be something. But would you take off your clothes to not But I mean, shit, when you're drunk, yeah, maybe. Because she didn't want to, like, vomit on them. Not a bad theory. But then, didn't like, they have to hit her at, like, a kind of a good speed for her to be able to get hit by the car? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. All right, I mean, that's not a bad one. Maybe. Think maybe. It's all coming back to me. That was a really weird one. I think that's the only explanation, is that someone had to hit her. I think someone else was driving. Or, I don't remember if I said it in the video, like, she might have, like, tried to pull over and put her car into park or something, but she didn't really put her car into park, and she gets out to go vomit or something, let's say. But then who put her clothes in the area? So, the whole thing, man. Let me know if you'd want to do a murder mystery makeup updates episode where we go through and we update some episode. I don't know. I'm mainly thinking like Casey Anthony, because, like, you know, she made her appearance on TikTok or whatever. I'm like, what is she doing now? Also, if there's been any things, people who have come forward, especially with the, like, Jalea case, like, I'm curious. Because, like, reading the comments, it's like, I'm actually curious to know if there has been any, like, updates, movements, or just anything. But let me know. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I would be more than happy to... We'll call it a circle back. I'll circle back murder mystery makeup. Let's do one more fan theory for Jack the Ripper. At KNP_1992. What do you think about the theory that Jack the Ripper was actually Mary Piercy, a woman who got away with it because she was a midwife and could walk around town with blood on her clothing and no one would question it? Okay, so what do I think about Jack the Ripper was actually Mary Piercy? I mean, it's possible. I guess my hesitation there is, like, women killers are usually never that brutal. Do you know what I'm saying? And you know how, like, brutally murdered the victims were, and it's like, this could be very sexist of me, but I just feel like a woman killer would be more clean. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's possible. Oh, shit, I don't know. So Mary, she actually killed her lover's wife and child, and she was hanged for it. And that's kind of where that connection, that some people believe she could be Jack the Ripper. I guess. I don't see why not. I mean, anything goes when it comes to Jack the Ripper. I don't know. What would be her motive? But what was Jack the Ripper's motive in the first place? I don't know. I mean, it's a theory. It's a theory. Another one, Faye at Faye, though. My mind keeps going to the theory that Jack the Ripper was a woman. A man would never make it more than 5 years without getting sloppy AF. I know it's rare that violent killers are women, but it's not completely impossible. I mean, maybe we've just been looking in the wrong place the whole time, thinking it was a man when really it was a woman. I did not blend this lip like I was hoping to. Maybe, why not? But, like, maybe. Do you really think a woman would kill like that, though? Had to be one angry lady. That's what I hate about those older cases. It's like, yeah, they just didn't have, like, the resources to solve it, right? They, like, took pictures of the DNA evidence. And it's like, damn, that sucks. If only they would have, like, kept something. Or, like, I remember in the Jack the Ripper episode, it was like there was blood all over the sidewalk, and some guy got a hose, and was just like, And it's just like, what a bummer. There's some cases I wonder if we're ever really gonna know. Do we want to know? Yeah, we do. We do. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for watching my murder mysteries, commenting, asking questions. I mean, looking back, like, I've done so many episodes of murder mystery makeup, and to have, like, a minute to, like, sit and kind of just really think about the like, god damn, I've done a lot, but I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you guys so much for just being here, subscribing, watching, commenting. I can't say thank you enough. I really appreciate you for being here throughout the years, and I hope you know that. Truly. Oh, it's an eyelash. I thought it was a spider. So yeah, let me know if you would like me to do an update episode, and who you would like me to update you on, if you're interested. If not, just let me know. No, Bailey, don't do that. And I won't do it. All right, you guys, that is it. I think this video is long enough. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. Did you? I'm not sure. Let me know down below. Have a good rest of your day. Make good choices. Oh, look at that. All right. And I'll be seeing you guys later. Goodbye.
Oh, you know what? You need to just check to see if there's any fucking Charlotte. Been a minute since we caught up on the Potato Queen.
Am I the a-hole for calling my wife?
Wait, I'm not ready! Oh shit, there's lots of them. Okay.
Old Spice. Smell super 24/7.
On Qantas, there's magic above the clouds. Welcome to Australia in the sky. Relax and toast to Melbourne.
I slightly cheated on my boyfriend. How do I regain his trust and save our relationship?
Well, anyone can be saved if they're holy enough. But let's find out.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Am I the Devil?
And am I an angel?
You are.
And I am.
I made a terrible decision and I completely regret it. I've taken some important lessons about boundaries, transparency, and honesty. I think these lessons can help him feel secure and safe with me. To start off, setting boundaries. I got to this point because I didn't see appropriate boundaries. Does that mean that he didn't tell you that he doesn't want you to cheat on him? I don't know if that's a boundary that needs to be set.
It's a given.
I think it's self-explanatory.
The boundary is like there's a boundary that, you know, yeah.
My boyfriend didn't like this guy because he was much older, married, and mostly because he kept flirting with me. I told my boyfriend he needs to be okay with me having guy friends, just like I'm okay with him having girlfriends. He told me he's okay with my guy friends, but not the one that's constantly flirting with me and that I just met him. Which, looking back on it, is a fair statement, and would have avoided this situation.
Tale as old as time. Can people of the opposite sex be friends?
I think they can, but I feel like more often than not, there's unspoken feelings there. In this case, there are spoken feelings because he keeps flirting with her.
Unlike boundaries, which are unspoken.
Okay, so transparency. The guy my boyfriend didn't like is wealthy, which makes sense. He's much older and his wife also makes good money. He invited me out to this really nice restaurant. My boyfriend takes me to nice places too, but mostly on special occasions because of finances. But this guy took me to a nice Michelin star restaurant, and I wasn't transparent to my boyfriend about where and who I was with, which in the future, I will be 100% transparent.
It's a little sus.
I think that's like the bare minimum, honestly.
You're going with some random guy to a Michelin star restaurant?
Yeah.
Didn't tell your boyfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little sus. But hey, I'm trying to have a holy mindset. I'm trying to find the good in everyone.
Yes, that's your role that you must play.
But right now, fighting the urge to send you south.
And for the record, for those of you who are like, I don't know why you're taking the side. The point is we're debating. We are debating. We're trying to see the good and the bad in everyone. I always see the bad.
You're just horny for being bad, like horny. Horn.
YouTube, no yellow dollar signs. So the biggest thing is I felt obligated to flirt back, and I have to recognize that I'm never obligated to do anything because someone is being nice. After the dinner, which was amazing, we went to this great rooftop bar, got a hookah, and we kissed.
Oh, is he just being nice now?
Yeah, he was just being nice. He kissed me.
As one does when you're in a committed relationship with someone else.
Boundaries also need to have been set with that older man as well. Quite frankly, you shouldn't have even gone on a dinner date with someone that's not your boyfriend.
Yeah, that's a little sus. I don't know if I have room for you on my cloud, but I'm really trying here.
We're not done yet. He wanted to take things further, but I couldn't betray my boyfriend like that. So we just kissed, and then he took me home. When my boyfriend asked me about it, I was not the most honest. From this point forward, he gets 100% honesty. I don't know who told my boyfriend, but somehow he knew. I do have it narrowed down because I did a group FaceTime call to tell my friends about what happened, and they were the only ones who knew. I don't know why you're worried about who told him.
Why is that the problem?
Yeah, it's not the problem. You're the problem.
You are the problem.
It's 5 different people it could be, and my boyfriend won't tell me who told him about it. Well, that's the least of your worries, quite frankly. But that's a problem for another day. He wanted to break up, but I convinced him to give me time to fix this. The core issue is he says he can't trust me and doesn't want to be in a relationship where he has to doubt if his girlfriend is telling the truth when she says where she's going and who she's with, or feel the need to play detective, and he's not doing that. But he did graciously give me some time to make it right. He said that if I have a way to get him to trust me 100% and can go to sleep while I'm out and be confident that I'm not doing anything, he will take me back. So, anyone, especially people who face similar issues, what do you do to reassure your partner so they could trust you 100% and feel safe? Or what did your partner do? I honestly just think like long-term action, like long-term
millions of
that
tiny
you're never
stabs.
going to do it again, and you show that with time. Repeated efforts, not just like, oh, let me just do this one thing and then all of a sudden he will trust me again. Like, trust is earned, baby girl. She could give him her location.
Yeah, share your location
Share
at
your
all
location.
times.
That's not good enough. Like, I think like repeated efforts to show up for him and to prove that you're trustworthy might make him forgive you eventually and trust you again.
I don't know. I think you have to just be fully honest with him.
Yeah, you have to be fully honest with him and fully take accountability as well. In your post, it kind of still sounds like you're not
going to bed.
entirely taking accountability.
Like he was just being nice.
We'll watch this tomorrow. That's it for me for today. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate